I'd like to call the Board of Selectmen meeting to order. If something.
You gotta mute.
Yeah, I'm good. Okay. I'd like to call the Board of Selectmen meeting to order for Monday, March 7th at 6:02 p.m. Could I have a roll call, please?
Teresa Amos, yes.
Chad Sexton Duranian present.
And Veronica Cal present. Please join me for the pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. I'd like to announce that the meeting is being recorded on Zoom and it will be posted on the town's YouTube channel after the fact. It is also being broadcast live on Channel 9. All right, 1.4, Chairman's addition or deletion. I have a few changes to make here. One is that I would like to move 5.0, the library ARPA project, to after 3.3. If we have library and the community services coordinator present. And the other change I have is in 1.6, we do not have the minutes for February 21st, 2023. That's me. I'll have them for the March 28th meeting, but we do have minutes for November 1st, 2022. So those are the ones that we'll be reviewing tonight, and those were in this there. So those are my two changes and two changes. Does anybody else have anything else that we need to add to the agenda? Eric or Darren for Teresa?
I don't.
Teresa? No, I don't. Thank you. We're now open for public comment. If there's anyone who has a comment, if you're in the Zoom, you can raise your hand. I don't see anybody.
I do not.
All right. No public comment. Our next thing is to look at the minutes for November 3rd. So are there any changes or is there a motion? I guess I should say first. Is there a motion to accept the minutes for November 3rd, 2022?
I'll make a motion that we accept the minutes for March 1st, 2022.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any comments?
I didn't see.
There is any comments?
No.
None either. So all those in favor, please say aye. We're all present. We can do it that way.
Aye.
Aye.
And it is unanimous. And for November 1st. All right. Right now I'd like to move on to our appointments and hearings. Our first one is at 6:05 and it is with our state representative, Margaret Scarsdale. So Margaret, if you'd like to come up to the table or you can stay right there. We have the owl.
Sure. I'll come. Is it the table you mean here?
Yeah, that's perfect. Great.
Well, thank you.
We're so happy you could join me.
Oh my gosh, I'm so happy to be here. Thank you so much. I just wanted to take a quick opportunity to say hello again officially. I know we've all met and talked and in some cases worked together already, but I'm trying to make the rounds to the towns and say hello to the board, give you a very quick update of what I've been working on and doing. And understanding that it's budget season and we will be having much more detailed conversations about towns and priorities. So I've been on the job less than 6 weeks. I was sworn in on January 18th, as you know. I had about 12 hours before the deadline to file bills that had been going on since January 4th. I didn't obviously have access to the capability to file any bills. So I got that around 1 o'clock on Thursday. The deadline was Friday at 5. So I was able to file 9 bills. And that includes coming up to speed on the system where you actually file the bill. So we feel pretty good that that was at least some kind of record. And they cover, for 9 bills, they really cover a range of things, funding for our rail trails, PFAS funding. I filed 2 bills to create, a municipal building authority, like we have the school building authority and a safety first responder building authority, so that those entities, like if municipalities were redoing their town hall, or you don't need a senior center, but if a municipality was working on a senior center and needed renovation, you would have access to those state funds like a school building does through the Massachusetts School Building Authority. And the same thing for safety complexes, because throughout the Commonwealth, a lot of our town buildings and safety complexes are really deferred maintenance and, you know, built 60 years ago or something, and we need something new. And if you don't have access to these funds, then it falls on the back of the town. Certainly getting the Townsend Charter across the finish line, that is a priority of ours, and we are going to get that done, so you can count on that. And let's see, I am on 4 different committees. I am on the Community Development and Small Business Committee. All of these are joint committees. That one, that was one of my top picks. It's been a passion of mine for many years to work to do community development and, you know, just help bring about vibrant towns. I'm very happy to be on that one. And relatedly, I'm on the municipalities and regional government. So that's a great way to build partnerships with other towns in a region and across the state. So if you're working on mutual goals, you have more access to funds and best practices and things like that. I am on the Emergency Preparedness and Management Committee, which is great. Our daughter is a firefighter. First responders are very near and dear to my heart, so I'm happy to do work there. And the last one is definitely a learning curve and a chance to get more skills. It's advanced IT, the internet, and cybersecurity. And I'm more of a where's the on button kind of person. So, so I'm looking forward to learning and contributing to that. And in addition to the committees, you have an opportunity to join caucuses, which are sort of special interest groups. And I tried to be really careful about picking those because, you know, it's a balance, right? You want to be in the district, but you need to be at the state house, building relationships, advocating for legislation. You have to be on committees. That's a requirement of the legislature. So you have that time commitment. And then if you're going to be on a caucus, you're going to have more of a time commitment. But I'm on a food systems caucus, a zero waste caucus. I'm very concerned about sustainability and the environment. I'm on a regional schools caucus, and I actually helped get that one reinvigorated. It hadn't been active for a couple of years, and as you all know, regional schools are very, they're just a critical piece of the town. So I want to make sure that we have a bigger voice at the table with regard to schools. I'm on a Central Mass caucus, which is cool because that's all of the Central Mass with similar issues and priorities. So again, a united voice. Criminal Justice Caucus, and I just joined a Rural Communities Caucus, which also had not been very active. So it's wonderful. The work is amazing. The people are amazing. It's so collegial at the State House. You know, and I think that's what's great about the committees and the caucuses. It's people who are interested in an issue. So there's really not that, hey, you're a Democrat, you're a Republican, you're another party. we're interested in, the environment or, small town. So that's my very quick update, and I'm happy to take any questions, but like I said, I do want to come back and talk more in depth about your legislative priorities. I'll be meeting with the chair of Ways and Means at the end of this month to talk about the priorities that I would like for him to consider in the budget, and so I want to make sure I've had those conversations with you before then.
I'm just gonna, after being at the school committee meeting tonight, I think that one of our priorities is full funding of the regional school district.
Yes.
That's pretty important for us, especially for our budget.
Yeah, yeah, the nice that the governor, it's an early budget, you don't expect it to stay there. I know the regional school really did not see a big, barely moved the needle on some of the town. And I forgot to mention, I filed a bill for 100% full funding of regional, bus transportation. I know that was already codified in law back during, I think, Governor Dukakis' time, but we've never quite gotten there. So just to try to bring that back to the table and say it's such a like an albatross to town, because I mean we all know for us the education budget is 60% of the general fund budget, and a large portion of that is transportation. And when the towns have to find a way to fund those, it usually means cuts in other areas, and it really should not be that kind of discord between the two. So yeah, that is definitely a priority.
Are there any alternate solutions, for funding other than just increasing funding the way it is, such as I know there was once consideration instead of funding by the number of students in the town, by actually funding by the population of the town? Is there anything like that going on?
So I know there are conversations happening about, just in general, we have one bus company. So basically a no bid contract. Did that go back up to DESI and they figure out the transportation? So it's not town trying to negotiate with one party. So I think really everything is on the table. And that's what's great about this regional school caucus that I'm in. We're meeting next week for the first time, and I've already talked to some of the members, and they have the exact same concern. So we just can't keep leaving towns behind, because it results in cutting someone from the payroll, more deferred maintenance, and you already have deferred maintenance. So I would say everything is on the table.
Well, even the optics on that, seeing the amount of money we're paying for transportation and seeing a bus go by with 2 students in it.
Yes,
Very disconcerting.
exactly. So do you need 100%? Like, what's the metric on that? Is the bus 50% full all the time? So if you said, okay, let's go with, you only have to fill a bus 75%. I think that we're willing to consider anything and everything to try to get those numbers down, and really to be more common sense, because they're huge buses,
Right.
and it's a lot of gas if you're touring 2 kids around, or 5, or some smaller number.
Or you have to do the whole route.
I mean, yeah.
Well.
We really do appreciate your time and look forward to working with you.
Yeah, absolutely. My door is always open. You have my cell, you have my email. And to me, that's what the partnership is, that we're both very active partners, and, if you need something, let's figure out a way to try to get it done.
I'd like to invite you and Senator Cronin to
Yes.
topic.
Yes, absolutely. I know he's looking forward to that as well.
And we'll find a time as well for everybody.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm actually headed to the Lunenburg School Committee meeting, so normally I would stay, but,
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Take care, Maggie. Thank you. All right, we're gonna move on. Our next appointment is at 7 o'clock, so we're going to move on to the appointments of officials and personnel. 3.1. Is there a motion to appoint Keith Barrow as an on-call EMT?
I make a motion that we appoint Pete Darrow as an on-call EMT.
Second,
Any further discussion? I guess I just want to say one thing. It used to be that we would say, subject to, blah, 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 you know.
Cory check and
Yeah,
physical.
But we have opted to not go that direction because there are different requirements based on different contracts. And of course, we're going to follow what is in that contract as far as pre-employment, specifications go. So I just wanted to make that
Yeah,
clear.
if it's in policies and procedures, we follow it anyway, so it
Right.
doesn't need to be in the.
Exactly.
Yep.
So, anything further on Keith Barrow's appointment? That was just a general. All right, all those in favor, please say aye.
Tuesday morning, aye.
Right?
Aye. And it is unanimous. So welcome, Keith. And, we're moving on to 3.2. Is there a motion to appoint James Kirk as a per diem firefighter in?
I make a motion that we appoint James Kirk per diem firefighter EMT.
Second,
Any further discussion? All right, all those in favor, please say aye.
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 And all in favor, so welcome to James Kirk as well. 3.3 is a discussion of the meeting hall committee and, in general, the BOS appointment process. So in making appointments for the meeting hall gallery committee, it became rather confusing. And so to find the source of the confusion, we had to do a little bit. We were appointing 5 at large because that's what's in the gallery committee policy, which is posted only on the library website. But then we learned that perhaps we should be appointing people, a library representative, a senior center representative. And so we kind of switched gears, and then we learned that no, it really is 5 at large. So the question was why? And it's because there are apparently 2 policies that are not, this is a dangling part in a sense from prior stuff.
a dangling participle.
So, yes, dangling policies. So apparently so historically, the meeting hall is a town building. And the town was the one scheduling, and there was a volunteer that did the scheduling at the meeting hall. Somewhere in the mid-teens, the volunteer quit doing that. So there was then a need to look at how we did scheduling for the meeting hall. In the meeting hall, there is also a gallery. So people can, display art or display collections or display historical items or whatever. So there was also a policy developed for the meeting hall gallery. So the meeting hall gallery committee can be found on the library website. And that is what we were assigning people to. And if you read the first 2 pages, as I did, it's 5 at-large candidates. So the posting that we were going to put up for a library representative to the gallery committee can be just exactly the posting that's up. At large only, so for another member with a term ending in June 30th, 2025.
So this is what we did before. This is the first appointment that we did was correct.
Yes, all of our appointments are correct. We've done 2 appointments to the
Right.
gallery committee. The first one was, Cheryl Alter,
Correct.
and the second one was the last meeting, which was Rachel King.
Correct.
And so when we believed that we needed someone from the senior center, we changed our appointment to make Cheryl from the senior center because she's a member of the senior center. Remember, she's our out-of-state appointee.
Yeah.
But in fact, she really is just that large.
Well,
with
what
the
I meant
town, we
was the
appointed
first
her.
time that we appointed, that was correct. That was
Yeah,
the proper procedure. Then we corrected it last meeting that we had,
yeah,
and that correction was incorrect.
correct.
Yeah, I did that.
That is exactly right.
Okay. So
It's. kind of
my
like its own
question
phrase.
is, if we did it right the first time, then why was there a correction and how did that come about? Because we need to be. I looked into it too, and when we did the correction, that kind of caught me off guard and I didn't have any resources to look it up. But
Yeah,
if,
so,
if any other problem happens, who would be in charge? Would it be the chair? Would it be the town administrator? Who?
I think if anybody has a question on an appointment, ideally, they would notice it prior to the appointment and notify the town administrator or the chair of the Board of Selectmen.
Okay.
All right, and that did happen.
Okay.
After the fact. And I had no reason to believe that, well, other than I did read the gallery committee, but, things could have changed. There are a lot of dangling parts, not too many left anymore, but this is a dangling.
Is one of them. So I would like to see that we have an updated, posting of what's available in the town as far as volunteers and all of that is concerned,
Yeah.
because it hasn't been updated for a long time, or it gets updated in pieces or whatever. That should be updated all the time.
There
It should
there
be
should be
current.
like a monthly run through that,
Yeah.
through the, appointed officials list,
Yeah,
so that it's clear who has been appointed.
so that we don't run into this again.
We had a
Who's
couple of
appointed.
years of no new appointed officials list. And we have a new one now, but it's not completely up.
You know, there are individuals on there that aren't even employed with the town that are still on.
Well, that was corrected about a couple weeks ago.
Okay.
So if you look now, but it is still not completely.
Really work in progress.
Yeah, so it would be nice if there were an, on a regular basis, maybe monthly is too frequent, but every other month or so, it would be nice if there were.
Well, it does feel like we have appointments to various boards and committees
Pretty frequent.
pretty frequently.
We
so.
do. And the other thing that needs looked at is the opening list on both on the website and down on the bulletin board. Because those are not, we've been trying to make them accurate, but, that's not exactly accurate. So I think from a process standpoint, the Board of Selectmen is the appointing authority. And our appointments stand, and once we have a very good reason for it.
Correct.
So in doing the research to find out where the confusion was, I found that there is a meeting hall policy that was put into place in 2018 and never enacted. And then,
10/31/18.
yes, yeah, 10/31/18.
Right.
And there's an email that gives the dates of the minutes for the Board of Selectmen meeting. So that was put into place in 2018. I got a copy of that from the library director. I could not find it anywhere else. despite my searching for it, because it is referenced. I have now read the entire meeting hall gallery document, and it references a meeting hall policy, which I could not find in. And when I talked to the Board of Library Trustees, they're the ones that got me on the right track. And Stacy forwarded me the policy. So what needs to happen at this point, first of all, is for posting. The posting that we put up for the Meeting Hall Gallery Committee, because we do have another candidate to be appointed, would be exactly what's up there now, but with a 2025 date, because we have one 2023, two 2024s, and one 2025. We appointed Rachel King through 2025 last meeting. So we need one more through 2025. And then we will need to make an appointment in June if the other person does not react.
Right.
I guess that's how it comes down to. So I pulled this notice off the website. This is what is posted right now. The only change that needs to be made to this is to make it say 2025. So that's that, and we'll be good. Our appointments, I'm gonna declare as good for the Meeting Hall Gallery. The appointments we've already made, no need to reappoint. They're on the committee, whether they're at large or we declare them something else, doesn't matter. They're on the committee. But what we do.
They're going nowhere.
Yeah, what we do need to do is look at the meeting hall policy and the meeting hall gallery policy, review both of them, make them up to date, and get a web page up on the town website for the meeting hall gallery.
To mirror what's on the library site.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And to post the policies, we need to have maybe the meeting hall and the meeting hall gallery, but there is no committee in that policy. Right now, the library and the senior center have a method that they use, and they're doing the scheduling. It really should be someone here, or there should just be on the website a scheduling app kind of thing. You go in and you schedule. If it's free, you schedule yourself in. So if we are going to do a new website, that might be something to consider. You know, a calendar that's kept electronically.
Is there a fee for the meeting hall?
In that policy, there used to be, I know because I paid the fee for other things that when I've used the meeting hall for other organizations. But it's been a while since I've done that. And I certainly haven't done it since there was a new meeting hall.
We've used that for the housing authority, and I don't remember if we paid them.
Oh, on a Saturday? Yeah, well, but that's a town organization, so maybe not.
Yeah,
I mean, a municipal, town government
yeah.
organization, so maybe there wasn't a charge that. I honestly don't know. But so that it needs to be looked at so that it's consistent and everybody knows what the policies are and where they are, and they should be easily obtained, which it was not.
So
So,
we should put it back on for the 28th. So
yeah, let's put it back on for the 28th, and if, yeah, we could all read them. And
Do we have a candidate? Is that what it is?
we have a candidate for, a member of the meeting hall gallery committee. We don't have any candidates to do
But we
it.
need to post it. We can't appoint without it being posted.
yeah, it needs to be proposed tomorrow, and then that candidate we can put it
All right.
Okay.
all the response form and we'll do that on the 28th too.
And then to look at the policies, those need to be reviewed. So how do we do that? I guess is the question. Is that our job to do that?
Well, so it's just, there's the meeting hall policy,
Yeah,
And then there's the gallery, a policy about the gallery.
Yeah,
The policy about the gallery should probably be referred to the gallery committee for their comment,
okay,
to see if they have any thoughts about updating it, and they should bring it back to the board. The meeting hall is kind of our responsibility.
Yeah,
they're in the SharePoint.
Yeah,
Both of
the
them are
meeting
in there.
hall is, if I say our, I say the Board of Selectmen responsibility. And so should probably be reviewed at this level,
Okay, so,
although we could certainly send it out to the Council on Aging and the library, since they're the ones who've
and to
been,
get their comments.
get their comments about it, which I can do.
Okay, so that sounds like a plan. So we refer the gallery policy to the gallery committee for review. Do we want a date that they need to give it back to us? March 20th.
I would
No.
say end of April,
yeah,
at the earliest.
that's after the budget,
All right.
shenanigan.
Yeah,
All right, and then send to, COA
and I'll just do that, I'll send it to the,
and the library trustees,
well, I would send it to the library director
the library
to
director.
review it, if she wants the trustees to look at it, that would.
And the senior center, because it even refers to, the library used to be closed on Mondays. It's not anymore. It's open, Monday through Saturday, but many years ago, it was closed on Mondays. And it refers to, on Mondays, the senior center does it because the library director isn't there, so I think the senior center director should look at it too.
Okay, so I'll send that over tomorrow.
Okay, thank you. So that is, so the BOS appointment process is just the BOS makes the appointment, appointed official. And questions should be referred to the CA and the chair to. All right, I am moving on because we have time. The Comcast franchise renewal. We received official notification that that process is to begin. So, all right, did everybody get a chance to read the letter? All right. Thoughts on how we're going to proceed with that?
Well, it doesn't give you much to go on at the contact this Patrick. And talk about arrangements, right? We'll make arrangements for a meeting and
So,
bring it to negotiation.
right, so I guess what we need is a table contract to look at what is existing right now.
There should be some changes, there should be some updates to it. I think we should also have TCAM involved in this.
Definitely get their recommendations.
Yeah.
At the very least.
To be able to do that. This is our opportunity to kind of put in our consent forth in regards to what we're doing with our infrastructure as far as the IT is concerned.
Yeah.
I have some concerns about the equipment that they want to put in here as well. So maybe if we're going to be renegotiating this, it's a good platform for us to be able to make sure we get what we need and what TCAM needs so that we can continue without a blackout. Yeah.
So wasn't there supposed to be a media center at the school as part of this?
That's a very good question.
There was supposed to be, there had been a drop at the high school, but that was removed when the new high school was built.
Yeah.
And it hasn't been reinstated.
Yeah,
All
so that-
all the equipment was taken out and given back to TCAM.
But not the TCAM, just the town. They-
Well, the TCAM and then TCAM gave it to us, but yeah, they have a,
I don't know why they're mutually exclusive,
well,
why we can't have one at the high school.
Oh, yeah, we should,
we should, there's
Yeah.
two,
Yeah.
there is there's two channels. One is educational, which is at the school, and the other one is for municipality, for the town stuff. There should be a third one technically, and that is for, you know, that any person in town can create their own show and be able to
I like that.
they can do whatever they want to do. There should be, and from my understanding, there are, either teachers or instructors at the high school that have a media class, but there is no real connection anymore, with it, which that is where Channel 8 and Channel 9 came from. There really should be, a much more robust program at the school, for the football games, or whatever else they have going on at the school. It should be a program for, the students to be able to broadcast whatever they want to do. They can do it internally or they can put it on the air. So that was all part of, the initial, what I thought was going to be the initial drop at the school and then drop in here, so that one channel was up there, the other channel was here. Since then, there's been some back and forth, and it hasn't really been established on what's going on, and there's been no real contact with the school.
So is this contract a good place to straighten it out?
With that,
Is this contract a good place to?
I mean,
well,
I think it is.
the contract is with the town, so it's just with Comcast and the town. It's not really with the school. It's the talks need to be with the school. separate.
Well, yeah, but this is the time to do it.
Yes, no, I agree. I'm not disagreeing with you. I'm saying that it's not, we're not be talking with Comcast in regards to the school. We need to be talking with the school so that we can then incorporate it into our contract. Did I say that right?
Yes,
Sarah,
I get
did
it.
you
I
have
get
a
it.
question?
I do, well, school, the town of Pepperell and the town of Townsend do not have the same, they don't have content. So how would that work?
That would be up to Peckerell and the school committee to decide how they would want to do with their provider, their, television service, their com.
Okay,
their
yeah,
cable
I
provider.
think they have their own.
Yeah, they do. But if you remember a few years ago, they used to broadcast the football game. That was Pepperell Public Access that was actually doing the filming of the football, but they were running it on our channel so that we could see it as well. So I think that's also in the negotiation. We should
Right.
be able to work
It'd be
together.
wonderful if what you said.
I think that TCAM, our cable access and Pepperell's cable access work well together.
They still are, yeah.
Right.
When we do town meetings, they're always here. helping.
Okay.
It's just a matter of the drop at the high school.
Yeah.
The other place I'd like to see a drop is in the meeting hall, only because we can't broadcast from there. Someone had suggested, oh, why don't we do town meetings at the meeting hall? But we don't have cable access in there.
What we-
The meeting hall at the library seems thing.
Yeah, there is.
There is,
They have the capability to do it. We just need to drop it.
Yeah, we didn't know the drop.
oh, well, it's that even the health
Same.
meeting that's on Saturday,
Yeah,
we don't have a drop there. So they
Oh, yeah.
they can go and film,
it's on the
which
list.
is what they're gonna do.
What
But-
not to get into too deep of a discussion, but what it needs to do, and this is what Eric and I are working on, is to have fiber to connect all of the buildings. Once we have that, then they don't need
It
a
doesn't
drop there.
matter.
We
Yeah.
can use it, we can pull it
Right.
here. So that's what we're kind of working on the background when we're talking about rewiring town hall, doing the Wi-Fi and getting the drops put in between buildings, getting the fiber put in between buildings. Because once we get the fiber between the building, we just need the one drop that's here. And we
And
can,
we're good.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, so, we need a copy of the cable contract, I think. And we need to get that to TCAM.
I think let's do the TCAM contract as well. Both of those contracts.
I
so that
think we
see-
would have to redo it because I think the agreement is a certain time period.
Yes,
I don't think it's forever.
right.
I don't have it in front of me to say exactly.
But I'm saying we need to compare the two
Right.
to make sure one
And-
is following the other.
TCAM should look at the cable contract
Yep.
and provide us with that.
Did you want to establish the committee? How would you like to do that?
Well, they had recommended a committee prior, we could set up a cable committee,
I would like to.
all right?
That makes sense.
So what do we want the
I would
committee?
also like to be able to invite the school and the committee as well.
Be a member of it.
Okay,
So we can get
need-
their input,
Yeah.
at least extend it.
So
So
what's
that
the
they can
makeup of
say,
it?
yeah,
What's the makeup of the committee? One BOS rep, which doesn't have to be a select, it can be an appointed, it can be an appointed rep. One, North Middlesex rep.
yeah.
Keith, yeah.
So we put somebody from the FinCom on
Um.
Okay.
Thinking of,
Yeah, I don't see why not.
yeah,
it. I
one,
mean, it's a very large contract having to do with.
Yeah, and
one,
it's always up for vote in town meeting because of the appropriation, I mean,
Because of the peg.
yeah, from PEG access, so,
and two at large.
Yeah.
Make
Five.
it
Did you
nine.
say T-Com? T-Com?
yes.
Did we say Pecan?
I didn't hear it.
I didn't hear it either.
Yeah, I think we should put
Somebody
somebody from
from
the
Keith.
DCAM board.
That makes still
Only one at large.
only do one at large. One Pecan. All right, so I have one Board of Selectmen, 5-person cable committee, one Board of Selectmen rep, one North Middlesex rep, one FinCom rep, one CCAM rep, and one at large.
If North Middlesex ignores this, we can get a second one large. Hopefully they-
All right. So we'll set up a cable committee. When is the contract up? 2025.
Correct. Yep.
So the length of the committee is from now until,
The contracted,
I think it's September or something,
and
2025.
until we have the contracts, so
Until contract is set up. Approximately 2020.
my also, I just put this as an aside, but my thought is that the quicker we get this set up, might be able to expedite some other things we have in the works.
Right, anything else on the table, franchise renewal? All right, moving on.
So I wanted to, I apologize.
That's okay.
You had moved 5.0 up to 3.3 and
I
skipped
did,
5.0.
Nine. All right, so 5.0, this is an ARPA project on, we have our community services coordinator with us, so I wanted to take this now.
Do you want to sit over here? Where do you want me to
Yes.
sit?
Yeah, that's perfect. That's gonna be the seat.
The seat. I did print it out for you guys, so there you
Long time, man.
go. I know. I was gonna say I really like the gentle.
All right, so this is a new request from, the library. It went through our community services person. And, I guess because it's a department request, is that one?
Because it-
Directly to us?
It wasn't originally put in the outline that I had come to you guys, way
Okay.
back in the fall time, when we originally only put aside the ARPA money that I was looking at for recreation department, police, fire, EMS,
Right,
they
right,
weren't
right.
the original outline. But what I've been doing is noticing, which departments have been actually utilizing that 30,000 that we had originally talked about. And some of them have not met that cap, so I was like, okay, that's great, like, we have some funds that we can kind of move around, and Stacy came to me and said, something that we've been really thinking about is professional development among the library. We think it would build a better bond between me and my teammates. We think that there are some things that we would like to, conferences that we would really learn from using professional development funds. So I talked about it with her and we came up with a plan to dedicate $10,000 over the course of the next 3 years, but they would also be supplementing some of the conferences or memberships that they're looking at with some library funds as well. So ARPA wasn't going to cover all of it, but they were just going to use it as a little bit of a cushion to be able to do a couple more of these.
So this is like seed money or something, they're gonna.
Yeah, basically, where it was such a low amount at $10,000 over 3 years. I talked it over with Jennifer, our capital strategic analyst, and she approved it. I had run the outline towards her and she said, yes, this looks great. Definitely funds to be used for lodging or hotels. Let's say that the conference was, I think the conference that they had this year was over by the Cape, not a big, but some of them might be nationally. And so that's why we wanted to just have that cushion in case, let's say Stacy and Molly wanted to go to the big library conference in Chicago for 2 days or something like that. And then we had also discussed, her and I, Stacy, that some of the funds would be coming from library as well, like I said, to kind of supplement it.
Okay. So what do we need to do?
You just have to tell me whether or not you like it.
Can I?
Yes.
I just wanted, I know we're getting to capital planning later, but, I don't know.
But
But we in capital planning had also recommended use of opera funds for the library, including the library funds being used for the project of restoring the books that came forward, the Memorial Library.
Oh, that's separate from them.
The ceiling fans for the current library that we have. And,
Some kind of a board,
there was some type of lighting board that they had, a $10,000 program, reprogramming of the lighting. Oh, that was $5,000. So there are some funds that we were also recommending.
Well,
for
we'll
the
look at
library.
that with capital, but we have policies for expenditures. And is this fall, so the, I guess how does this fit into our policies? In other words, is it under your funds then? So,
Yes.
so you've
It's
redone
under
your
wellness
plan.
right, so
Your wellness
in your budget that you did this summer.
The one that we approved.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think what,
So it wouldn't be a new ARPA project.
it
Correct.
wouldn't be a
Right,
new
it's
ARPA,
not a
that's what I'm
project,
getting.
it's just reallocating the funds to different parts.
Okay. So I think we just need to vote on this. And I don't think it requires anything other than when you do your reporting.
Yeah.
To fit that into that whole chunk of money.
Absolutely, yeah.
Into that whole spreadsheet.
Right, I was gonna say, so all of the ARPA funding that I've utilized so far, I have spreadsheets per project per department. Just so that it totals out exactly how much we've spent so far.
All right, so I guess what we need is a motion to accept the library's request for ARPA funding through the wellness fund.
I'll make a motion that we accept a $10,000 funding of ARPA funds from the wellness funds for use for library funding of individual development, professional development.
Second time.
Any further discussion?
I think this is a great idea.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Everything safety.
The only other thing that I had, I don't know if it made it on the agenda for today, was that emergency assistance fund application change. Did you want to, we don't have to, but I do have it.
I think we can just do that.
Yeah, I don't think that-
Offline.
yeah.
I don't think it's not a policy change, it's
Right,
just
it's
a
not a
form.
Yeah, it's just a
I know
form.
that you wanted
just a
to-
form, so I don't think-
Okay, so we will, I know I received that in email.
Yes, but I just printed it out. just in case.
Okay, I
Extra
didn't put it in the SharePoint, but because it wasn't on the agenda, but it is, accessible to everybody. All right. So check with Eric on that, on the updating of the form.
Yeah. The
All
other
right,
thing,
and now I'm gonna turn the other thing over.
the thing I want to hide my face.
So as I think the board knows, Emily has been with us for almost a year, is doing a fantastic job as the community services organizer. And unfortunately, she has given her notice. Intent. So
Here.
Emily will be leaving us in mid-April or so. And going on to a very exciting opportunity working for the state. So I wanted to let everybody know, and wish Emily well. And she really has done a fantastic job during her time here.
Well,
We're really gonna
we
miss
have
her.
her till mid-April.
Thank Emily for taking the job that the Board of Selectmen thought up, and Joe's here. He was on the board when we solicited input for what the town wanted, and so she took a totally undefined job, other than we had a job description that we made up. And she took that and ran with it, and she's done a great job, and we really appreciate it. So the position is well set up for the person that's been, that's been the fill Emily's shoes.
And please reach out to me at any point. And while I only live right Leominster, this is like my baby I'm leaving behind. This is going to be very hard for me to do.
Emily's actually worked to tweak the job description so that it's a little bit less vague than it started out. A little bit
That's
more-
all we had was vagueness.
So,
Idea of what we want.
yeah, and so now Emily's created the job basically, and now we have a job description that reflects that. So, I would be asking permission for the board. We're gonna go ahead and post the job in the effort to try to get someone here as soon as, or before.
It would be nice
Emily-
to know for them.
What I'm hoping for is that, but again, call me.
So I'll post it tomorrow.
So do
Well,
we need a
I
motion?
think before we get to that, I just do want to say that in the short time that you've been here, you and I have had some very special projects that we've worked on. I know for me personally, but more importantly for the community. And your work is well recognized across the state. It's not just in Townsend. You are recognized by some of the legislature in here. I've had people come up to me and ask me about the work that we're doing in town, and it's like, no, she's doing it. So you need to know that, because well, it's very important for our townspeople to know that there is a lot of support that you, not only with the senior center, but you've done townwide. So you need to hear that.
Go on.
Thank you. No, you can.
No,
We can't go for your motion.
All right, I'd like to move that we post the position of community services coordinator. We post, did I say post?
Post.
Say
With an amended
With
job
an
description.
amended job description. This is not a union position, so it doesn't require. So,
One second.
do I make the
Didn't she? Sounded like a motion.
So discussion.
Okay, yeah, discussion.
So are we going to continue to fund this through ARPA, which I am not for? Just to let you know, I don't think any personnel should be funded through ARPA.
The
I'm just
thing is-
throwing it out there.
Okay, so let me ask you a question. Do you think the work that Emily
It
is
has
doing?
nothing to do with that.
Well, yes, it does. Do you think the work that Emily is doing is a valid use of ARPA funds? I mean, I know it's a valid use. Do you think it's a use of ARPA funds that is worth it?
I
Because
think it's a valued use of town funds. And I think if we get somebody to fill her position, she should be secure in that position. And there's no way that we can secure a person in that position with ARPA funds that are going away. I want somebody that's gonna come to work for this town, that knows they're gonna be here and give to this town and stay. And not that that was the reason you went away, I'm not accusing that. But funding was going away. We have no plan to how we're going to pay for you to stay on, and then somebody to come.
We do, we've been talking.
We talk about it, just like we talk about, we have plans for how we're gonna put $2,000 funding in to get our roads thing, and yet it never paved, and it never shows up. Have we put any money aside to pay for employees in upper?
Yes,
Gotta
we
recover
have,
profit.
yeah, there's 10,000 in the budget if you look at it in the senior center, and it was there last year as well. So 10K was set aside there in the senior center. I can show you the line item. I would like to see that increase to 20K this year. And I would like to see the human resources that is also funded by ARPA to have 10K in it. The thing is, if we don't have a person in that position, the services that are provided do not happen.
I am not saying we shouldn't have a person in that position. I am saying it shouldn't be funded through ARPA. I'm saying that
And
it's a
I'm
needed-
saying that without the funding for ARPA, we don't have the position, and therefore it follows that we don't have the service.
Am I allowed to?
Yes, you're allowed to.
No, that's okay. So I actually really appreciate that question, because one of the things that was weighing on my mind when I first came into the position is that I knew that I was taking a risk going on a grant, and I've been on grants before. I think what we're using ARPA for right now is actually almost like Chad said earlier, is seed money. We've never had a position like this before, right? So what we have to do is we have to get somebody into that position so that we can get data. We can get reporting, data, and services going so that we can justify the need for a position. And so we use that ARPA money as seed money to be like, okay, let's see if it's worth it to even have this position in town. Now, let's say nobody was coming to me, we would know that the ARPA money was going towards a misuse and that it wasn't going to work, right? But where we have the data now for me being in there in a whole year, what I actually would propose for you guys to think about is to not think about this as a town position, but to think of this as a regional position between Townsend, Pepperell, and Ashby. Because I will say that even though I do get a lot of Townsend residents coming to me, I do get calls from Lunenburg, Ashby, and Pepperell on a daily basis for people who need the services that I'm providing. And I think what you'll see in my reporting over the past year is those services being dealt out to other communities than just Townsend. And I don't have any money. I like, there's no money that comes out of my department, solely the ARPA money that was for funding me and then for the wellness programming that I'm doing, right? So I've not really cost the town anything by being here, but we've gained a lot of information and a lot of community needs and residents needs in the 1 year that I have been here. I'm seeing people, I'm seeing at least 5 to 10 people a week, depending on what the need is. Some things are very quick, some things are a lot of case management, but I would argue that we were using this ARPA money not as the end all be all for the position, but as the seedling money to start it.
And I will say, as far as the ARPA fund, one of the reasons that we have that is because of the pandemic and the hardships that people encountered because of that. And so one of the purposes of that position is to help our community recover from that and be stronger and you know, to help the people that do need the services. So that's, you know, I think it's an excellent use of ARPA money. And if we need to fund a person to do that, it's for all the reasons Emily just brought up, it's well worth it. My opinion. Yeah.
If I could just kind of put forward, this is kind of jumping a little bit.
Yeah.
But in the budget that has been prepared for the Board of Selectmen, I have done what the board has asked, which is start to wean the positions that are ARPA funded off of ARPA. So they're being partially funded by the general fund this year, with a plan for the next fiscal year. They're going to be partially funded. There'll be another chunk of funds that go to from the general fund to the ARPA position. And so the budget that I'm preparing I've taken that step that I know is a hard step to take. The easiest thing to not do when you're in a budget bind is say, oh, well, we'll just make it all ARPA. But the budget does have general funds directed to both of those Board of Selectmen appointee positions from the general fund. So I think your concern is 100%. It's definitely valid, because it's very easy when you're in a budget bind to say, we'll just keep funding them all on ARPA and figure it out at the end, and that becomes impossible. But
Well, I would like to say that, that's a general consensus for a lot of people, that that's what our ideology was. But I will say that there was a lot of thought and a lot of discussion involved with just our ARPA funds in general. And part of the reason why we decided to do with the HR generalist and with Emily's position is that was our golden opportunity to be able to get somebody in here to get established. Part of the reason why we did want to get Emily in here is because we had a need, we had a big need, and we just couldn't service it with the current employees that we had. So we did have to get somebody in here on a pretty rapid basis, because it was on the tail end of COVID, but still, we needed to have somebody in. We needed to have somebody. We also had the grants that we had running out that we needed to have some supporting, and my whole thing is that this was not something that we just threw together in the last minute. This is something that we really researched. We talked with our consultant in regards to what would be the best fit for the funding. And as Eric said, we are one of the biggest conversations I remember we had one night very late, if I remember correctly, was the sustainability of these positions. So I think if we continue on with our ideology on making sure that these positions are going to be wrapped into our town accounts, then we should be okay, because we still have until 2025. 26.
Yeah, 2026. And I do know that because one of the things that I started while I was here is a community services network group. So I've actually met with all of the community service coordinators from other towns. And I did that in a way to kind of shape what I wanted the community services department to look like. But I did find that a lot of them are also on ARPA money right now. So it is something that other towns have some value in, but a lot of them surprisingly only got part-time. So they were only like 10 to 15 hours rather than the full 40 hours that I work. And in conversation with them, I did find that they are struggling to get the needs of the community met by only being part-time. So again, Teresa, very valid concern, very valid. And I knew that, like I said, going into the position that I was taking a risk. And my plan was to be here for 5 years. I promise you, I wanted this so bad. I even cried when I told Eric that I was leaving. I cried my eyes out. But unfortunately, I just found an opportunity that I wasn't able to turn away. However, I do want to make sure that that concern is heard and that that concern is valid. And that's again why I would push that we needed the ARPA money as stabling money. And as Eric had said, like we have been putting some money away for it. I do think again that we should consider regionalizing the position. I know that takes a lot of conversations with all the other towns. Everybody has to buy in, but I think it would really service this area well.
And I think too, Emily's position was to help the staff.
Yes, that was a lot of,
and as well as the community. So there were two pieces to her servicing. And over time, the staff needs will be less, well, maybe not. I don't know. But the need to, we had a lot of first responders with, and that we wanted to care for as well.
Provide
support for, and so that piece might be less but the community piece will probably remain.
The community piece will definitely stay. The project management piece will kind of back off as the position grows because we won't have the ARPA funding anymore. However, I did make it integral to my position that we also joined the wellness committee. So here in Townsend, we started a wellness committee for the employees to give back to them using Maya, which is our our insurance association that we use.
Oh, and Townsend received an award for that
And-
at the Mass Municipal Association Conference in January.
I was able to work directly with the highway department to get them funding through Maya to give back to them. So for the highway department, for them to be able to have things like food dryers and a place to actually sleep when they've worked 12 hours plowing the road, because that's a big dangerous concern. So we were able to fill out a grant for that. We received an award for the wellness committee and for the grants that we filled out. And so I tried to make that like an integral part of, not only did I want to give back to the community, but I wanted to give back to the Townsend staff and to actually the employees who through COVID, especially the senior center and the library, I mean, they were open all the time and they needed that stuff. So I was able to work with Karin, again, no cost to the town. I worked with Karin to get Maya to come in and do things on trainings on how do we process loss and how do we process grief and how do we process burnout, because this is the position that will burn you out. If you are not taking care of yourself mentally and physically, it will.
I just want to make it very clear, and I'm sure you know, Emily, my concerns about funding
Yep.
through ARPA have nothing to do with the great job that you're doing. I
No,
think you've
thank
done
you.
you've done an excellent job. It's just, you know, I don't see a clear exit plan where really, we're already into fiscal 24. So even 10,000 in 25 and another 10,000 in 26 doesn't get a 40-hour position salary onto our budget in 2 years, basically 2 more years of funding, 3 more years of funding.
But I
And
do
that's
think
where,
a regional position could.
I
think
that's
that is
where
an
my
option to
concern is.
explore.
I think you proved the value of this position, and I think if we're serious about the value of this position, I think we should, you know, fund it appropriately and not through ARPA funds. But then again, it does fall under the guides of ARPA in the sense that whatever you want to call it, free money or whatever.
I
I
would
just
just-
keep going with it, but
I would just say something real quick, which is, for purposes of where we are, which is FY 23, the only way to fund it is via ARPA.
Right.
And I think if the board wants to, we could certainly have a discussion at some future time about whether or not we need to move it from ARPA to the general fund. But right now, to post it, the only way we would be able to hire someone is to pay them out of ARPA, because that's all we have for FY
that's all you
23,
have.
Madam Chair, I move the motion.
the post.
Opposed. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, it's unanimous. All right, well, thank you very much.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you for coming in.
We have 2.2.
We are going back to 2.2. We have a 7 o'clock appointment with the Townsend Affordable Housing Trust. This was in your packet. We need, we have a motion to amend the trust document. Let me make it bigger. This is for the declaration of trust was in the SharePoint. So to make an amendment, it requires a vote of the Affordable Housing Trust, and we have with us Cindy Boundy, one of the trustees, Beverly Napier, one of the trustees, and David Worland, another trustee. I am also the BOS trustee right now on the Affordable Housing Trust, and we do have one opening. We met last week and we voted on the amendment. Adam Costa, town council, has reviewed the amendment and said that it's perfectly fine the way it is written here. So this is to change Article 5, the powers of the trustees. So do you want the motion in order to amend the trust? The trustees have to vote and we have to vote. And it has to be in a joint meeting by read that correctly.
Yes.
So we have posted the joint meeting. So I guess I would like to open the meeting of the Affordable Housing Trust. So could I have a roll call, please?
Beverly Napier, present.
Cindy Melody, present. And Veronica Cal, second. So I don't know, Eric, maybe you can answer this. Do I vote as a trustee and as a selectman?
Yeah.
Yes,
You
I do.
you do.
Okay. All right. So, meeting for the Affordable Housing Trust, it was opened at 7. So would you like me to know?
I can read it.
You would like to read it? Sure.
I move that the Townsend Affordable Housing Trust Declaration of Trust recorded on November 17, 2020, with the Middlesex County Register of Deeds be amended such that Article 5, Powers of Trustee 6 reads, to pay reasonable compensation and expenses to all advisors and agents, and to appropriation such compensation between income and principal as such the board deems advisable, removing but not to exceed 5% of annual expendable trust assets. And Article 5, powers of trustees 11 reads, to borrow money on such terms and conditions from such sources as the board deems advisable to mortgage and judge trust assets as collateral. However, the trust borrowing shall not exceed $15 million at the time without approval of the town meeting by a 2/3 minority vote, removing the introductory with the approval of town meeting by a 2/3 majority vote to incur debt.
And is there a second?
I'll second, and the first part is approval of town meeting by a 2/3 majority vote,
Did I say it?
minority.
Sorry. All right, so any further discussion? All right,
Well, let me put my 2 cents worth.
okay, put your.
I do want to say that, part of the, I'm very happy to see this moving forward, number one. Number two is that I put a lot of work in getting the trust set up for this particular purpose. And there were reasons why those 2 articles were written the way that they were written. But the way the, Affordable Housing Trust is going right now is exactly what we were hoping for. So I'm 100% behind you guys. Just want to say that.
Great, thank you. All right, so the Board of Selectmen will vote, and then the housing, trust will vote. So, let's do this roll call, so starting with the BOL, even though we're all present here.
Is there any more, Jeff?
That's Sexton Iranian, yes.
Veronica Cal, yeah. And the housing trust, go ahead,
Yes.
Every Napier, yeah. Cindy Donovan, yes. And Veronica Cal, yeah. And so with that, the motion to amend the trust passes.
Yes, it does.
So thank you very much. I also want to note that I have from Adam, he will be drafting, a warrant article with a proposed bylaw for the town meeting in May. To have so that the Affordable Housing Trust is part of the E-code for the town. So,
We should have been set up before.
yeah, wasn't, but that's okay. Better late than never.
Can I ask a question in regards to that?
Yeah.
No, I answered my own question.
Okay,
It's so small.
that's good.
So didn't even cut that.
All right, I would like to, motion, is there a motion to adjourn unless anybody has anything else? We have to adjourn the, trustees meeting. So is there a motion to adjourn?
I move to adjourn.
I Cindy seconds. All right, all those in favor, David. Beverly. Aye. Cindy. Aye. And me. Aye. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for coming.
Our next meeting is March, right, Monday.
No.
Yeah, Monday. Oh, well, we have the 14th, we have a joint meeting.
Joint
Right.
meeting.
Oh, and we need to post that. with Adam and the Housing Authority. So we'll post that for 7 PM. And I guess we need to post that by Thursday of this week,
Yeah.
or Friday. It's a Tuesday.
It's Tuesday, so it could be posted on Friday.
Friday.
It's not a
Okay,
holiday.
so I'll get that posted. Thank you very much for coming, everybody.
Thank you.
Moving down to. For me,
We're at 4.2.
we're working to, okay. I'll be talking around. Yeah. This is 5.0.
Why change? We've been doing it for 2 years, right?
I would say if the board wishes, the members of the capital planning committee are here. We
Oh,
can take
okay.
4.6 out of order.
Yeah.
And not make them wait through our.
So we go through all the rest. Okay,
Yeah,
so
that's a lot.
let's go to consideration of the capital plan. This is 4.6. Does everybody agree to that? Yeah.
We have a quorum, so do I need to call a meeting?
Not unless you posted it. Did you post a meeting?
I don't think so. I don't know. We said that this was our next meeting. Okay.
All right, so we have,
We can all be here as citizens, just like Teresa said.
Don't deliberate.
Yeah.
Don't deliberate.
all right, so I think what we're gonna do is just look at what was given and we'll vote at a later time, once the budget is more,
I think it's probably best.
that's what we did last year.
Yeah.
Every year we've done that.
We'll have to make them final decision once the budget gets closer.
Yeah, so Teresa, if you wanna go over with us the capital, requests that were approved.
Okay, so there's one amendment, the way I wrote up the minute, it talks about the budget excluding the water, but we did vote on the water, but I just excluded it from the total amount that I discussed further in the budget. So I did amend the minutes and I'll send you, I already sent out a copy of the amended minutes, but the water budget, they've asked for an additional $7,100,000, which we approved, which had to do with additional supplies and stuff they needed in fiscal year 24.
Is that spelled out
Yes,
in the other document?
and yeah, so there is a copy of that in,
Is it the handwritten thing?
yep, it's a handwritten thing, it's a copy on the spreadsheet. It's the bottom one on that right there. With what right in front of you? Yep, that right there.
The top one.
Oh, is it the top one that's 7
Yeah.
million?
I'm
Yeah,
looking at
Okay,
this.
yeah, that's the only one we
The
received.
Main
was it?
Street generator, okay, that's ARPA. Harbor Trade Treatment Plant, that's the 12 million, okay. South Row, Emery, Act to Harbor, 4 million. And that's FY 24, okay. Let me read this. Data exercises.
Is that in 4.6?
It's important. The top page of that didn't print well.
Under draft capital plan?
It's just this, it's not, the one you're looking at, that was the one that was previously approved. It's just, that it's the Harbor Treatment Plant, additional funding for upgrades to water treatment plant and additional water lines, as requested by engineers and state DEP. It's the first tab, it should be the first tab.
Water, got it. Okay. It's not-
And this is in addition to what was already.
Oh,
approved.
here it is, okay. I can't read it. Trailer mandated data exorcist.
No, you're not right. You want me to bring my screen up and look at it from,
I see utility truck and equipment, you know, Lunenburg Road tank planning, Warren to Virgo Road loop, okay? But it's the fourth one down, Teresa, that I cannot read.
Is this part of the SRF loan that they're doing?
the water
It'll
treatment?
all get rolled into that.
Yes,
Additional funding for the SRF
The
loan.
30.
It includes the, this includes this includes the additional, water main piping that they're doing in the road.
Yeah, it's the.
That they've added onto the,
Right.
that they've added onto the SRF
Not that I know
project,
a
so
lot
that we
about
can get
that.
we can get the, number one, we get the 0 interest loan.
Right.
And number two, we get the repayment, we get the payback there.
Right.
Give us a discount. And it also becomes part of our, eligible for reimbursement under the lawsuit as well.
Could we ask Dave to type this up and turn it in so that it's readable, so that people know what it is in the future? Because I'm really good at reading horrible writing, and I've been doing it for years, and I can't read.
Yeah, I will do so.
Thank you.
the next one we have is the police. They have $75,000 that, they're looking to continue to be funded. That's the second payment on a lease that they have for 2 vehicles. And $35,000 for a record management project, which we were going to ask if there's a potential for that to be funded with ARPA funds.
What we have to do to see if there's a potential for ARPA funds is check it out with Jennifer Thompson, because ARPA funds aren't able to be used for just anything.
Right.
We understand, so
Yeah.
we have to check that out. The second thing is that all of the ARPA funds have been committed. However, we can look at the wellness budget, because if Emily has not used all of her funds at the end of this first year, this is the first year that ARPA funds, there may be additional funds there. And that would be turned back into the Board of Selectmen for further consideration. So if those two things are okay, meaning there are monies coming back in, and secondly, if our consultant okays the expense as a valid ARPA expense, and I would, this is something that we can look at in July, roughly, after, once, well, and suddenly doing her reporting.
She'll have to do it before
She leaves. So, once she does her reporting on her expenses for the year, the funds that went out to the program, she was,
Yeah, we'll know, but we'll know by then,
yeah, so-
shortly what it is.
Are we just going over the recommendations? Is that all we're doing right
Yeah,
now?
we're not, I don't think we're gonna take a vote, we're just gonna review
yeah.
the budget, it's,
So I think that there is a possibility if it meets those two criteria.
If not, that is the, one of the ones that we are recommended funding this year, if it can't be funded to ARPA. For the fire, there's a $50,000, funds that are coming for the second payment, the first payment on the fire engine number 2 that we replaced last year. That's already out, that was approved last year for a bond, but we are also recommending that they replace fire engine, approval of replacing, fire engine 3. The price on that's gonna go up about $80,000. They've already seen, I've received a letter that price is gonna go up. It's gonna take about 3 years to get that fire engine, so we'll save about $80,000 now if we approve it now. And we don't have to start paying for it until 3 years from now. So that's why in my recommendation, even though we're recommending it, we're recommending the bond, and the cost for this year, I put down as 0. We wouldn't be paying for it for at least 2 years from now. Because it's about 2 to 3, 2.5 to 3 year leeway. There also, need to replace an ambulance, which is about a 1 to 3 year lead at $350,000. We're also recommending to fund, but that they feel that they could fund through the ambulance receipts. Also, because so many people are waiting for, fire engines, they have that 2 to 3 year wait for fire engine, instead of just have to jump the current fire engine when they finally do get, the replacement for fire engine 2, they might be able to get a few, like $50,000 for it, for some company that knows they're gonna have to wait 3 years. So normally they're not worth anything, but people are so desperate now, they might be able to get some money on that, and that they'll use for the ambulance. So again, I put for both those items for the fire department, I put fund them this year, but the actual cost to capital planning this year as 0, because neither of them would get this year, and one would be funded through ambulance receipts when it does come in, and one wouldn't be in for a couple of years. So we wouldn't start funding it until it came in.
So if I could take interject real quick and back up what Teresa said. Right now, there's $101,000 in ambulance receipts that goes towards an ambulance lease. Those are the funds in the ambulance receipts that we anticipate using, once the lease is over, using to fund, and in my opinion, it would be able to fund both of the bonds for both the new ambulance and the new fire truck.
Okay. I have a question. This is on the original police, it's not on the recommended, but it's more a question for you, Eric. In the original request, it says solar carport charging station, and I know we're looking for this. Does this need to be, is this one of those things that needs to be on a capital plan if we are putting it in place or not?
This was, so I think this is the chief saying, if it doesn't, if the town administrator's plan to get solar canopies falls through, we're gonna have to find a way to fund them, because
They need them.
every department's gonna be migrating towards the hybrid cruisers, and so they're gonna have
And
to
I don't
have.
think he put it out to like 2027 on it plan or something.
Yeah, so
Dollar amount.
the chief and I have had this conversation. He wanted it out there just so everybody understood that, like, we
them.
need to get solar canopies out at the police station at some point in time, and they need to have electric vehicle charging capacity, because that's what the fleet's gonna look like in a few years. So as the board knows, we're kind of moving, and we have plans in play to get that infrastructure in place. I think Jay wanted that as a placeholder, just to say, like, in case those plans fall through,
Okay,
we're gonna have to find another way to fund it.
I just wanted to make sure. Okay. Thank you.
Under the highway, out of the items that they requested, we're recommending approving the pickup truck with plow. Because we started with the assumption that we were working with around 150,000, we worked backwards from that to see what we could fund. And we thought that we could fund this, especially if we went with a bond, 5-year bond on that. That's one way that we could spread the funding of that out. The other thing, they definitely felt that they needed funded, they felt it was important to get this year, was a cobalt inspection camera for 15,000 and a second plow for 10,000, which those two we felt should be funded directly.
Okay, so the pickup truck with plow, I see on this 15K, but I see on the 5-year plan, you have 75 under fiscal year 24. I'm wondering if that should be 15K over 5 years. Because,
Yes.
I think that's probably what it should be, is, yeah.
So I put a 15-year bond, we recommend fund over a 15-year bond.
okay, so on the the 5-year plan, we should probably change that 75K to 15, 15, 15, 15, 15. Is what I'm saying, so that next year's crew, which as we know may or may not be the same as this year's crew, looking at this understands that 15K out of capital expenses needs to be spent. Unless we're doing it a different way.
Yep.
But
I can see that.
Yeah, I think that's right.
The next one was facilities. Again, we went back and forth on this, whether it made more sense to, but then it came down to how much money we had in the end. We definitely recommending, getting a pickup truck for facilities. We wanted to see if there's any chance to get special funding if we go with a hybrid truck. We wanted to talk to the board about, purchasing outright, just like the plow, whether it makes more sense just to purchase it outright or to purchase it with the bond. So, possibility, which we're recommending, is extending it over a 5-year bond. And, the other, there's a mistake in my work here. The other was flammable storage cabinets for $2,500. On my paperwork, I put $25,000, so.
That's an expensive.
Just a mistake.
That won't burn.
was there any thought given to a used truck?
You a what?
The used truck.
I
I know that when cemetery and park purchases, they typically purchase used.
When I saw the price of 40,000, to tell you the truth, I thought he was looking at a used truck. But
Okay.
I don't know.
Did people provide quotes?
Yeah, he did. So let me look at that again. I'll have to pull that out. But we did, I can't remember. No, that wasn't. We, like I said, we thought that the best, funding for that was to try to get, funding, because we did look at some grants, for hybrids that were out there. So we looked at a hybrid, truck.
So the facilities superintendent is going to be applying for a grant. For the funding?
We were gonna look, if Green Energy would look into it for us. If they could let us know if anything was out there. The next thing we looked at is what, if we did look at funding for all these items, what does it look like over the next 5 years? How close are we getting to our bond ceiling? So we start off at $50,000 in 23. We add 15 and 8,000 more in 24. Then by the time the new fire engine, we're talking about having to put another $60,000. And then by that time, we also will need another dump truck, would be another $30,000. So by the end of the 5 years, we're thinking that the bonds would be up to about $170,000, just to get an idea of what the bonds are starting to look like if we spread replacement of these vehicles over the 5 years. Things that we didn't, fund that we thought could be, looked at for potential ARPA funding was to dispose, and preserve of the documents in the old library, which they, proposed at $60,000. This one, we went back and forth on, but, I guess this doesn't fall under, there isn't funding in the facilities budget itself. So, painting the Memorial Hall, exterior painting in the Memorial Hall, $20,000. I already asked about the communications records and the record project at the police station.
Well, what's the difference between those two? Because I'm not sure where you're getting. I asked this question. Tell me the difference between those, because I didn't see the renovation of communication center records in the police budget.
That's in their budget for, next year. The $60,000, the record management project was in their budget for this year.
Okay, the
But
35K I got, but the 60 I didn't.
that was next year, but as
Okay.
we're hoping there's a potential for opera funds,
Then ask for both. Okay.
so I moved it forward. Because we only have this year to ask for new opera funds. So I thought, especially since it was for the police department, that I thought maybe we could look for that.
December 2025, I think is when, no, December 2024. It's the last.
Okay.
ask
Well,
on
the
our
funds for
fund.
this year, so,
Not FY 24, but December calendar year 2024. Is the last, by then you have to say, this is what we're spending the ARPA funds on. And that's that. And then you have 2 more years to spend them. So we have another year from December. So next year's capital process can also be looking.
At our funds potentially, yeah.
okay. And the ones that became up, the rec halls windows need to be replaced at $30,000. And we need energy efficient heating system, which Green Energy is already looking into. Windows replacement at the WTRR, ceiling fans for the library, $10,000, Memorial Hall windows, $50,000, and reprogramming the lighting system at the library, $5,000. I've asked Green Energy to, they already feel that they can do the 50,000. They got partially into that already. They're looking into that, and they're going to look into potential for the other projects. And then the only one everybody says I'm silly, but potential assistance from extra operating budgets, maybe from highway, replacing walkways in the front of the town hall was a request from facilities for $12,000. And I was hoping that highway could help us with that. My capital planning people laughed in my face.
I would absolutely be opposed with hot spot. That would look not,
I think the
Not a good
Storage District
idea.
Commission might,
um,
I didn't say necessarily with hot chocolate.
meeting.
Anyway, so that's everything that was on our budget, everything that we recommended, and other ways that we're hoping to get it funded. If you continue down, so if you look at the grand total of what we had recommended, it comes out to approximately, if you have to include the, what did we say, the funding that's already there for the leases that we already have, then we're right at the 150 K.
and where is it coming from? Is that in capital stabilization? Or is it from free cash?
That's what we were told was available to us in free cash.
No, capital
No,
stable.
I mean, capital, you said the wrong thing. Capital stabilization. Thank you, Jerry.
Can anybody tell me what the 20K that went to town, the Memorial Hall last year was used for, that we approved at town meeting?
That's still on the docket. I don't think that it's been
What was it to be used for?
What was it?
The $20,000 for the,
For last year, there's a
Last
couple of things
year,
on
there-
here that,
yeah, it's for the rot and the painting around
Trim.
the trim.
So how is this different, the exterior painting of town?
The $20,000 isn't gonna come anywhere close to doing the whole, it might do like one end of town hall, it's not gonna cover, it's not gonna fund the entirety of it.
And who's doing the painting? Would this be good out? Is that what we're looking at?
I could check with Rob, I don't know specifically what
is
his,
it fiscally responsible? If we need to get, this is why I want to see a maintenance plan for the building, because we should be able to provide these figures, to capital planning, so we can plan for these over the next 5 years, over the next 10 years. 20,000 last year, 20,000 this year, it's just not a, I just find it very,
20,000 didn't get spent right, did it?
it hasn't been spent
it
yet.
hasn't been spent yet,
Right.
so it,
Okay, I'm looking at this. So I guess what I would like is a 5-year plan for all the buildings. What's being done when, what are the costs that we're gonna need for maintenance? And I mean, what Representative Scarsdale was talking about earlier, being able to tap in funds for, maintenance of buildings. That they had that, article that, or whatever. that
that's the
they're going to-
legislation that's going through.
Right,
That's what I'm saying. If we had a, an understanding of what needs to be done, we can tap into funding other than, you know,
when someone says, like, what Lori Trahan's office, what do you need? Well, maybe we need maintenance of Memorial Hall, but do we know how much we need? I'm looking here, exterior repair Memorial Hall, that's what it said, 20K from free craft, and that was approved last year. So now we have another 20K. Last year's didn't get spent yet. What do we really need?
that's,
And what is the staging for it? That's what I would like to see, because we may be able to get an earmark. Especially with a historic building like that. I just think we need to, you know.
this is why I put in what I put in last meeting that we had, to have these appraised on what we need. We need to assess these buildings to find out what needs to be repaired. What and put some sort of a dollar figure on it, so that we can give capital planning the ability to properly plan for these. 20,000 last year, if he doesn't spend that 20,000, it technically goes back into free cash, right?
No,
No,
it's an article.
Article, it's-
And
So it stays in there, so. And supposedly there was bids, from what I understood last year, for that 20,000. You know,
I thought it was gonna be done
I did too,
last summer.
I did
That
too.
the fixing of the rot, wherever the rot is, was gonna be taken care of and the thing was
I
done.
also thought that the document was, that from the police were supposed to be taking care of that on their own, from what I understood.
No, that got dropped. We were gonna do that. He was gonna see if he could come up with money for it. He was gonna try to get it done.
Right, but I'm just saying, I didn't hear that, but I knew that was something else.
We
as
had
well.
that and the library documents. We had wanted to fund that last year,
Yeah.
and in the end, we weren't able to,
Right,
because we
but
had to
didn't,
fund the schools.
right,
So we
which
weren't able to do, this
probably
is
gonna
the
happen again
deferred,
this year, but my question is, didn't we look into ARPA funds for the documents last year, and they said no, it wouldn't be?
I believe that the answer was no,
Yeah,
because we did look at,
yeah,
so not, an allowed use, but we can check again, because things change over time. I'm not opposed to asking them for that question again,
may have changed.
yeah. But I absolutely think we need to know what needs done here, and what's the timeline for doing it? Because that 20,000, if it wasn't gonna be used for the next something else. And we could ask for
Sure.
So,
I mean, there was some budget cuts that we had to do last year. More important, like the mowing and all of that, so that we could fund other parts of the budget. And if the 20,000 was available, we could have used that in other areas as well. And that's all I'm saying is I want to be fiscally responsible, much more than we were last year. We were tight last year, but I still think that, you know, I sometimes see that last minute flea market that happens in June where people are spending parts of their budget that they hadn't spent all year. You know, we shouldn't be having them. You know, this is what's the need of where we're at so that we can properly budget, especially with capital planning, because we have to, everything on the capital planning is very, very important in my eyes. So if we can budget this stuff accordingly and provide capital planning the money that they need to take care of the major stuff that they need, along with the roads that you had brought up earlier, that's where we need to really start focusing.
all right, so thank you to the capital planning committee for looking through all of this, and it takes time. It's a lot of.
It's a lot, but
Everybody next year what that 15,000.
Yeah, well, because it's already there, and so the question is, for me, if we have 150 in capital stabilization right now, and we spend it, then we're at zero. We have no capital, for next year. So how are we, and this is why we spent all free cash last year for the capital plan, because we didn't want to short capital planning and we wanted to build it up. In fact, we were supposed to be putting an extra 50 that then got cut down to 30, the special town meeting article. And those funds were supposed to be put in capital stabilization. So we were trying to build that back up so that we would have and if we do everything in this capital plan, we have no capital stabilization. And that's a problem.
Well,
We don't even have the 15K to pay off that $75,000 lease or the 10,000 for the 4 years for a facility truck. We don't have it.
well, we have bonds that are actually gonna be, aging out in F5. About $100,000 to borrow.
Can we make that happen now?
Yeah,
Yeah.
so, well, and someone has to know that, okay, those bonds are based out, those monies need to go to capital stabilization.
Well, no, it wouldn't go to capital stabilization. It just means that our ability, a part of our general fund budget is paying debt that doesn't involve taking money from capitalization to pay it.
So those bonds come up. We have nothing in capital stabilization next year because we've spent all the 3K this year. However, we have capital expenses, 85K for a fire truck lease, 15 for whatever the 75K truck is for the highway, 10K for we already know this now for the facilities truck, if in fact that's approved. We already know that now. That's 100,000. Where do we get that money from?
Well, so there's a couple of different answers, which is the fire truck is already on there. There's a fire truck that we're already paying for. That's
That's
all-
not capital stabilization.
That's not coming from
borrowing.
capital station.
Yeah,
That's already from borrowing.
Yeah,
The other two fire vehicles, are not gonna touch either capitalization
Correct.
or increase our debt payments. Because they're gonna increase our debt payments. We're gonna be taking money from the ambulance receipt. So, we have to, make sure that we are, the biggest one is making sure that we have sufficient funding to continue to pay for the cruisers.
okay, so I need to think about this because I don't think we have good for this year, but the things that are on the capital plan for FY 25 that were started this year, that are not borrowing, but are paid out of capital stabilization, those are gonna have to come out of free cash unless we're replenishing capital stabilization. So it may be best to only spend half of the capital stabilization fund. And find other ways.
Yeah, I mean, I think the
like
capital
free
statement,
cash.
well, I think that what you would do is you would say, we can absorb $100,000 a year in extra borrowing. And, say, spend $50,000 of it, $50,000 in extra borrowing from this capital plan, and $50,000 in next year's capital plan.
Okay, so what we did for capital planning last year is, we took the capital plan, the things that could be, that the Board of Selectmen decided could be funded, and we paid from free cash. We didn't touch the capital stabilization, that's why there's the money in there.
Yeah.
And then we said, okay, and then these things are gonna be borrowed for. The engine 2, forestry 2, the dump truck. And then, in addition, these things are gonna be borrowed for. Plow and sander, blah, blah, blah. So
Right.
do we need to specify this year where these are coming from? In other words, if we are going to borrow for these things, then we need to know that when we go into town meetings, so that the warrant article is written appropriately.
Oh, yeah, I wouldn't
Okay.
anticipate that we get to the end and not know where
We're
where
pulling
this
the
is
money
coming from.
Okay. All right.
You know, again, the biggest annual hit is the cruisers.
Yeah.
You know, that's 75,000 every year.
85 starting next.
So, and I don't know how long that goes. That's something I need to check.
5 years,
Mm.
5 years.
And are we, this year 3?
Well, the 75 is done. Okay, the lease is done. This is the last payment of 75. If I looked at his budget correctly, for the
It's
original,
85.
it goes to 85
and-
next year.
And I think it's 85 for 2.
He has it for 4 years. Vehicle lease is 85K for the next 4 fiscal years.
Yeah,
So
good.
75 this year and then 85
For 26.
through whatever the last year of this 5-year plan is,
Yeah.
4 years.
So that, I mean, so that's the one that we have to worry
Hold
about.
money back for.
Because that's the, you know, I mean, that's a lot of every year funding.
Yeah.
And that comes out as capital stabilization.
It is now.
I was about to say, I don't know that it,
We had
Ever
okay. It was capital stabilization that came out of, and Dawn, you can probably talk to this. Then, Chief Sartell moved it into his regular budget, so it came
Right.
out of the general fund. Because that way he could be guaranteed that he had the money for the lease.
right,
However, last year, we had to take it out because we were looking for ways to balance the budget and also pay for school. So we took that 75 out
but you
And we-
left it in the budget
and we paid for it with free
and just put
cash.
free cash into the budget to pay
Correct,
for it.
to pay for it. Now, this year, it's back in capital stabilization. I don't know if it's in the general fund because I haven't looked at that specifically in the budget. Because I've only had a few hours with the budget. So anyway,
Yeah.
do you see what I'm saying, though? He tried to keep it in
No,
the
no.
general fund, and I understand his reason.
And it may still be in the general. fund.
And if it's in the general fund and it's covered with general fund money, then that's good. But last year we couldn't pay for it with general fund
Right, so
money.
I'll nail that down very quickly with Jack.
And he was very gracious and understood
Yeah.
that we needed to balance the budget.
Right.
And so I agree with him that it should be in the general
But if
fund.
we can find that 75,000, or 85,000.
85.
Then funding the rest of these things over a 5-year bond is relatively easy.
Okay.
You know, because you're talking about 2 or 3 pieces of equipment that you're gonna fund. And like I said, we've got $100,000 in borrowing, you know,
Then
that's a,
the capital plan needs to reflect that.
yeah, so I think we absolutely need to do that and nail down exactly where we're gonna get this, but you know, remember, if you got $100,000 in borrowing over, you know, a 7-year bond is $700,000 worth of stuff. So we're talking about the stuff that we're getting here now is, you know, a $40,000 pickup truck and a $75,000 pickup truck and plow, and you know, random other things. You're probably talking about $150,000 worth of equipment. With $100,000, we could borrow, you know, $500,000 worth of equipment.
So if we look at this, then we can pull out, if we look at the total FY 24, recommended fund with a 5-year bond. This is not part of the capital stabilization. I'm looking at the green, on the page with the blue.
Yeah.
But I think that I don't think we should make these decisions now.
No,
I think we need to, like,
should.
as we get closer to the end, we're all gonna be having to make sure, I mean, the board's gonna have to be making choices about how to spend money and you know, how to find money.
All right, okay.
There is
That's
a
good.
line item on this budget on the police, line 275, 75,000.
The new equipment, that's why I need to talk to Jay about it.
But I don't know if that represents a vehicle.
Excuse me. The police cruisers are not part of the capital planning budget. They never should be. They're a capital purchase, and it was put in there so people knew that the police department was making these purchases. However, it's not a capital purchase because it's part of the business of doing business with the police department. It's really part of the police budget.
It should be, I agree.
And it always has been.
But we don't always have the general funds.
No, but if you put money into his budget from free cash, it's still money into his budget.
Okay, thank you, Andrea.
You're welcome.
I think that's what was being said. All right, so, I think we're done with the capital plan for now. We will be looking.
Thank you
at
very
it
much,
more.
folks.
Thank you, guys.
To have as a precursor of what fun we're gonna have later. Right? You bringing the
That's
donuts,
right.
Jerry?
And then, Finance committee is gonna post, correct,
Uh,
for Saturday
I-
meeting?
I just heard, so if you want me to post, I'll get everything.
I think
everything
that,
going.
yeah, you should.
It's- Last year we did it as a joint, and we both opened.
Yes, that's correct. That's what I was imagining too.
Um,
No, not
Well,
not for the budget, but we're not gonna go over capital
We don't
planning.
discuss that, yeah.
Yeah, so that'll be voted further down the road. But I think that, FinCom should post tomorrow, correct?
Yeah,
When do we have to
I
vote?
got it. You usually have to get it posted.
We have to get-
Yeah,
So I can post that and set the time, and then we can repost with an updated with a.
what are our times? We should probably talk
We'll
about.
just open at 8:30.
Open at 8:30.
Open at 8:30. I have 9 on the agenda, but let's do 8:30.
On
Don't get closed.
March 11th,
March 11th, right?
is it 8:30?
8:30.
I have a Zoom link for it, but I'm not gonna publish it. I'll just have the OWL set up so that it can be posted after the fact. If any of the public wants to attend, they need to attend in person.
Okay, so even department heads would need to be in person if they're coming in, or is
That
it
was the
strictly
plan.
joint?
That was the plan,
Okay,
that everybody was in person.
okay, like last time, I think it was, we let people come in on Zoom. So
Yeah,
we'll post it as an in-person meeting
correct.
with
Yeah,
If snow, I'm just being sincere, if there's no Zoom and there's snow projected, I am heading down to Florida on Friday, so I won't be there. I can
on
attend.
Friday or on Saturday?
If snow is predicted for Saturday, I'm
Oh, you're
leaving
going
Friday
on
night.
Friday.
So if there's no Zoom, then I can't be there.
So we'll discuss that. Okay, go ahead. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, and my suggestion was going to be, general government at 8:30.
Okay.
Public safety at 9:30. And then, uh, highway and cemetery,
On facilities,
um. Well, I think facilities is part of general government,
oh, it's part of general government, okay, yeah,
highway, facility or highway cemetery, and then, and
building,
health. And council, on it's basically human services, highway cemetery and human services would be at 10:30.
I think you'd be at 11:30 for that. Yeah, general is 8:30. You and something before highway and cemetery.
I had public safety at 9:30,
9:30, yep,
then the highway cemetery and public and human services
yeah,
all three at 10.
at 10:30. And then, kind of, I think the treasurer, and all of the other generic things should be at 11:30. Because the treasurer is gonna have, Medicare, insurances, it's not gonna take a long time, but there's a whole bunch of the budget that falls under debt. She can talk about debt and,
are you gonna post the meeting, do the agenda and post the meeting,
I can do that.
or do you want us to do it?
No, I mean, it wouldn't be a problem as long as people are okay with that breakdown.
Um,
Um,
I'm good with that.
Oh, I think, did I see?
When's library, is library?
The library's gonna be,
Human services.
library's gonna be at 11:30 with the treasurer.
With the treasurer.
Okay, so human services, library.
Well, library's actually not in the human services portion of the budget.
Okay. I thought they were.
It's its own
Odd,
thing.
it's its own little thing.
Okay.
No humans go to the library.
They do not. All right,
Library and recreation are part of culture and recreation.
Oh, okay.
culture and.
So I guess we should have culture and recreation at 11:30 along with the treasurer. And that way, that will give us, a good kind of timestamps to know how we're doing.
Okay, yeah, I like this. Last year we did like each department by 20 minutes and it just got so backed up.
Yeah, well, I think there's some departments that are gonna take literally 5 minutes.
Yeah.
And some are gonna take longer, but as long as the smaller departments are lumped in with some of the longer departments, giving an hour for a group should be okay. And that way I can tell the department head, your group is from 9, it starts at 9:30. And
Okay.
they can be here at 9:30, your group starts at 11:30 and they can be here at 11:30.
You want to break between groups, that's
We're gonna need a 5-minute break.
between.
So you got 55 minutes of questions and
Well,
answers.
it's either or build it in and it becomes, 9:40.
Yeah.
It's open, so you do a full hour and push it, cleaning the ice and hunky. You gotta.
Then we're never gonna get out at 12:30. We'll push this right past the.
Well, this one, okay, then it's a 50-minute segments.
50
Yeah,
50 to
50
55 minutes, like,
Starting at.
Starting at-
Back at half an hour, yeah.
and so if we do that, I think that'd allow us to kind of like, no, we're not gonna be able to spend a half an hour
Debating something.
debating, like.
Yep.
we need to like, and hopefully if everybody gets a copy of the budget and go through and figure out the questions you want to ask, the lines that you have concerns about,
Okay,
um,
I'll be ready.
then that should, you know,
All right.
give us a little bit of,
You're gonna have copies of this.
only for me.
Yeah.
When?
Absolutely. Hard copy
When
just for
can the
everybody.
FinCom pick up the hard copies? Pick up the hard copies of the budget?
So
It's on here?
yeah, so you can get a hard copy today, or Teresa and Chaz already got hard copies. But I knew you were gonna be on the computer, so.
Yeah, and is it the same one that you emailed? me?
Yes,
Perfect.
yeah, so,
Okay, I'll get a hard copy later. Right on.
I got some comments from the FinCom today during the FinCom meeting that haven't been incorporated, so there might be some slight changes,
So
but they're
make
not.
those changes,
Yeah,
yeah, sorry.
So Friday, we can get it, Thursday.
Get you a whip.
Well,
Yeah, I can have hard copies printed out tomorrow, because it's only a couple of very small changes the FinCom talked about.
Okay.
And that shouldn't be a problem.
all right, I think we're all set then. All right, thank you very much, and we'll see you on Saturday.
You know,
Maybe,
who's bringing donuts?
the snow.
No,
Is it really?
it was snowing when I
They
did.
already announced the dump is closed, they were just that on.
They're predicting, but it's open-ended right now, you know, kind of like.
That was the Saturday.
in the
Still by the
morning.
way, though, but-
All right, so,
Stoutmen know it all, we're my favorite.
all right, let's move on then, back up to 4.2, I think is where we're going.
Yeah, Grant.
All right, I guess the first one is MHP housing. I can't talk about that because the meeting was, canceled because of the snow day last week. So that it's redone for, 15th, I think it is, maybe the 17th. I don't know. It's a different day. It's next week for the housing grant. So I don't have anything to say about that. For the wild and scenic, the Conservation Commission, and thank you to, Joan, where is this right here? Joan Savoy, one of the commissioners, wrote the community, grant for the Wild and Scenic River for the Conservation Commission for non-native invasive plant training at the Adams Dam area. And this will incorporate both, the Highway Department and the Cemetery and Parks, as well as the Conservation Commission.
Oh, that's
And
great.
the project will fund the non-native invasive plant training in May by the Squanicook River at the Adams Dam area for employees from the Townsend Highway Department and Cemetery and Parks Department, as well as volunteers. The training will educate participants on how to identify and remove several known invasives thriving there, thus improving the environmental health of the area.
Okay, good. It wasn't clear whether they were pro or anti the invasives.
Yeah. An invasive species management plan of attack will be prepared based on the film. And so the town has received $2,263 for that purpose. So
They did a great job on the grant, yeah.
Conservation Commission on that.
Very good.
For the district, local technical assistance, should be announced that congratulations, Townsend was awarded two DLTA projects as the commissioners. This is the, Montezuma Regional Planning Commissioners meeting of February 9th. One is for the MBTA communities work.
Yep.
And the other for housing choice work.
Yes.
So, thank you to the Housing Authority, did they do the housing, and to who did the housing? You did it, congratulations,
I mean,
and thank you for doing that, and to the planning board
Wasn't that much heavy lifting.
for the MBTA community. All right,
That was
so.
actually a communal effort. We
Yeah.
all kind of put their heads together for it.
But I did the MBTA communities too.
All right, so while we're on DLTA, The amended grant is due in today. And we are placing an amended grant.
Yes. Yeah.
So do I need to read this or I'll just live with it?
I read.
You've read it, I've read it, everybody's read it. So, is there a motion to apply for the, DLTA amended, grant?
I make a motion that we apply for the DLTA amended grant as written.
I'll second that.
Any further comments? All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Aye. So it's unanimous and I'm sending this down for signature.
There you go.
See, Sabrina, it's not even midnight yet.
We have got almost 4 hours before the deadline.
You don't have to worry until 2 in the morning.
Yeah, it just means we have to finish the meeting by midnight.
Yeah, we're working on it. Okay, the Unified Planning Work Program, the UPWP grant to explore for both a corridor analysis and a traffic improvement study along Route 119 from Route 113 all the way west to the Harbor Lights, was put into MRPC to study the traffic and the curb cuts and all that.
Yeah.
We got letters of support from Groton, from Pepperell, both the town administrator in Groton, the town administrator in Pepperell, the town planner in Pepperell, and the highway department.
Sure.
To look at this, to see what changes can be made to traffic patterns. As time goes on, that area has the potential to become a strip. And it would be good to look at it, see how best to flow traffic, walking patterns,
Yeah.
curb cuts in that area. So we've put in for it, but we have letters of support from the other towns that are part of that 119 corridor.
Right.
So we haven't heard back yet on that.
Especially down by Proctor Road, that's all. Yeah, that's.
I haven't heard
The
anything.
Proctor Road.
Getting this on the
South
map and getting it moving forward
Yeah.
is our main goal, and it's good job on that, Veronica, thank you.
You're welcome. So that was submitted last week, so just last week. I think it was just last
Time
week
flies.
that was submitted. And I think that's it. Emily and I are working on the community one stop. And the 2 projects that we're gonna put in for on that, the preliminary is due next week, Friday, March 17th, I think it is for the field right back here, for the bus stop area, and Jeff Street, quote unquote paving, and the walkway that comes up, the original shared streets and spaces that was put in like maybe September of 2020. So
Was it 19 or 20?
one or the other, I'm not sure, it
Mm.
was a while back. And it wasn't funded, so we're putting into that to see if we can get any funding.
Great.
So that's it. Thanks for grants unless anybody has anything else.
Teresa actually brought a great opportunity to my attention. Was it last week?
It's
It was
no,
earlier this week?
Yeah.
For rural communities, of which Townsend is designated one. So I'm gonna do a little research into what kind of things have been funded through this. It's a state grant opportunity for rural communities.
Is that one of the ones that they look at for one stop?
I don't think so.
It's not, okay.
So they've got a separate application process. So I'll take a look at that and we'll see if somebody has any ideas once they see what kind of things they're funding. But it looks like they're giving some significant grants, doing the 6 figures for that. So
That would be great. We have a lot of use for funds.
It's,
All right, so the special town meeting and the special town meeting warrant.
the special town meeting and the special town.
right.
Yeah,
Would you like me to, if I may?
Yeah.
Okay.
All yours, man.
So as the members of the board know, we tried twice. to have special town meetings in December and January and did not get the quorum. And so, that creates a little bit of a conundrum. Those town meetings were not, dissolved. They were continued until, May 2nd. So we have two special town meetings outstanding, along with some requests for other special town meeting articles for a spring special town meeting. I had a conversation with Adam, and after talking it over with the clerk's office, we felt like the best way to go would be to have the moderator just open up the two old special town meetings and dissolve them, get votes to dissolve them, because there would be an issue over whether there'd have to be multiple voter check-ins, because anybody who registered to vote between January and May wouldn't be able to vote on the older two special town meetings if we just went forward with them.
Yeah.
And so we had to do that in January. We had to go through two voter check-ins. Yeah, there was a possibility that some people could vote on one but not the other. It seems way too unwieldy to try to do that with three, and very confusing for both the election staff who's in there checking people in, and for the people who would need to know, am I allowed to vote on one or two, or, it would be a kind of a logistical nightmare. So, Adam's gonna work on the language that the moderator needs to say in order to dissolve those two special town meetings, get a vote to dissolve them, and then we will have a new special town meeting that has some, but not all of the same articles on it. Including additional new articles that may have come forward since January. So to take the easiest one first, we had the second special town meeting, which only had two articles. Those two articles were to see if the town would vote to approve the 300,000 in borrowing, which we were going to take a jack on anyway, but we just won't do anything with that.
Okay.
And the one to sell the 97 Main Street, which we still need to do.
Right.
So we'll keep the 97 Main Street on, and we'll let the $300,000 go. This time's already passed for it anyway. The other special town meeting was a large one already. It had 20 or 19 articles.
Keep all the water ones on.
We're gonna need to keep a bunch of them. So there's the PEG access receipts. We're gonna need to keep that one on, because that's for the fourth quarter of FY22. So we're still looking at that. There is the correction to the capital stabilization account from the last annual town meeting that we still need to have corrected.
Oh my lord.
I know, we thought these were all done.
I know.
But they're gonna come back to haunt us. There is reallocating of the town meeting warrant to the that was originally for the recreation building roof replacement. And then there are there's $8,000 for the town hall elevator.
Yeah, but we already had to do that.
Which we had to get we had to get a reserve fund transfer to do that.
Right.
But we gotta put it back, right?
Well, we were talking about taking the $8,000 and putting it back in the reserve fund, but at this point in time, it's gonna be April.
Right, and we have a new reserve fund coming up for the FY. Yeah, I mean,
So
why?
I don't think it makes any sense for us to put $8,000 back in the reserve fund for the chance we're gonna need an extra $8,000,
I don't
sometime in
think-
those last couple of weeks. That just doesn't make, if we had done it back in January where we knew we
It would have
would,
made sense.
but at this point in time, they're operating just assuming that they've spent it, so I don't think that would make any sense. Then there's the $29,000 for the insurance costs, which we're still gonna need.
Yeah.
There was the $75,000 in energy costs, which in all likelihood we're still gonna need.
Can I say something about that? Are we seeing a decrease in, or a decrease in, dollars spent
we
on
are,
energy.
we are seeing a decrease in dollars spent, well, because of that
Of
municipal energy.
municipal application, so it really is making a difference.
You know, it's not, it's important to remember that we never, because of the time when we put it in, we never saw that jump up to 21 cents.
Right.
Cause we got in right before that, so, but it was from 19 to 21, so it was it was from 19 to like 21 and a half. Was the jump in December, so we were paying the 19 and now we're only paying 15.
Right.
So we are seeing savings.
Not
That being
huge,
said,
Well, but the energy use, the high energy use, we would probably be seeing a definite difference.
Yeah.
That's a big difference.
yeah, and so it's definitely a big and real difference
Right.
since we did this. So there's no question that the town's benefited from doing that in real dollars saved. So that being said, we're still gonna need the money to go into to replenish the energy account. The $25,000 for paying the expenses for accountant services, we still need.
Mhm.
The $7,500 for the new heating and AC unit for the town clerk's vault is still.
Well, I have a
Yeah.
question about that. Can that go to green energy as well? Can that be on the, new energy grant that the energy committee is putting in for? Since we're so far out in that, can that be one of the projects? I'm just curious because you got more efficient systems now.
Sure,
And I know it's a replacement, I think, for a failure, correct?
Yeah.
But has it been replaced already?
and no,
No.
the funds don't exist, so.
So maybe the company that does the looking to see what the state, could take a look at that.
Okay.
I'm just curious. Trying to save us some dollars.
The $10,000 for the Council on Aging Library roof and insulation,
I thought that got taken care of.
I thought that did too.
that I'll have to double check on.
Okay.
I'll double check on that. The $11,000 for the website, which is still,
Is that still an accurate estimate or is it more? Because there was a time I thought on the, quote that we got.
the last I talked to Harrison, he said they were willing to hold on to the quote.
Till the ATM. Okay, that's good. I'm
Good with that, yeah.
Okay, so that's all of the free cash. Then we've got, a cemetery transfer for sale of lots, cemetery fund for the purpose of ongoing maintenance. I think they're still gonna need that.
Yeah.
Then there's the water ones. We have
Yeah,
one,
they
two,
all major.
yeah, those were all important ones. Four, so there are 4 water ones. Then there are the bylaws, the public lighting bylaw. There is, the zoning bylaw, yeah, there's the zoning bylaw change around, site plan review.
Yeah, I think that's still probably,
I'll absolutely double check. We'll make sure the planning board still is expecting it to go forward. I think they are, but I'll just double check. And then the real property article about the lease agreement with the North Middlesex Regional School District.
they mentioned that. No. They were gonna get our.
Great. They have a copy of the draft lease. We won't be able to sign it until after the special town meeting and we get authorization, but I gave them a copy of it because rather be wrangling while we're waiting.
Yeah, I agree.
So those are the articles.
Well, that's not that bad.
No, it's not. It's not that bad. The one challenging piece is that the timeline for putting anything on the annual town meeting without the Board of Selectmen being the ones who do it expired on March 1st. So that means the Board of Health has a bylaw change that they're trying to propose. So that would go on the special town meeting. if the board so chooses.
So if we choose, we just open it, put it in and close it, right?
Yeah, so the one thing we probably need to do tonight is have a vote as to when we're gonna we open and close the warrant for the special town meeting, because the board has that authority. It probably makes sense to close it the first meeting in April.
Yeah.
So. Open it the 28th
We could open it anytime, we could open it
now.
the 14th. And close it the first week in April, or open it now, you can open it as the 7th of March and close it 7th of April.
Why don't we do that?
Yeah,
That
I
makes
think
sense.
So then everybody can just submit whatever they want
Yeah.
on that first meeting in April, we can set up.
All right, so is there a motion to open special town meeting warrant today and to close it on April 7th?
April 4th.
April 4th.
April 4th?
So moved.
Second,
All those in favor?
Aye.
aye.
Okay. So the flip side of that is that the annual town meeting is likely to not have anything extraneous on it. So right now, here's the potential items that are on, I'm sorry, I moved on to 4.4.
ATM, that's okay, yeah.
The potential items that are gonna be on the 4.4. The PEG access money for the first 3 quarters of FY 23.
Yeah.
The auditor asked for $8,000 that she asked for every year or something.
I had a question about that because I thought I saw that in the budget, but go ahead.
Potentially, if the board so chooses, articles to amend the bylaw regarding town meeting for quorum, which we had talked about possibly dropping quorum from 75 to 50, which is 124.7 or 1-7, and also 124-8, which is the article that says the town meeting automatically closes on March 1st, possibly moving that to April, so that it automatically closes April 1st, which is kind of more in line with.
And more.
Yeah.
I think it makes.
I talked to Adam, he said it made sense, you could do this as actually one warrant article, saying, clearing up a couple of different issues around town meeting, want to make these 2 minor changes.
Okay.
He could draft a warrant article if the board so chose. So that's another possibility. Obviously, the budget and the capital plan, we're gonna be on that, and then the affordable housing trust bylaw.
Add one. ATM.
Oh, I'm sorry, and I meant, I was thinking about that, but
Those were the 2 things that I had down to ask, make sure we're on the ATM warrant.
right, so that, that because of the, obviously the budget and the capital plan could be a little complicated, so there may be some free cash articles if we decide to spend free cash on
Yes.
something else that's in the capital plan, but that's generally what the annual town meeting would be like after those things. Right now, with the.
I have one more. We always move 5,000 into the 300th anniversary committee.
I saw that on the last one.
We
and I was
do
like,
that every year, and that's so that when we go to have the 300th anniversary, we have money to do it, and it doesn't have to be one big thing. It's kind of like paying for the community services coordinator.
You went a little bit at a time. Okay, so I will put that one on. And that comes from free cash? Is that where that generally comes from?
It usually comes from free cash.
Okay.
Yeah. There's you can see in the warrant article, you'll see it there, but yeah.
Okay, so.
And then there's all those movements of funds into the, the
revolving fund.
The revolving fund,
Yeah.
it's all that, is that why that?
Yeah, those are kind of those are like procedural articles that you would just
Okay.
put into every annual town meeting,
All right.
because otherwise the revolving funds don't exist next year.
Market part of
Yeah.
So as I think the board remembers, the free cash that we had at the end of the year was 489,000. And take all the free cash articles that were in the special time meeting that need to go forward. And right now, snow and ice looks like right now it's at 170,000. It's gonna need from free cash.
Does that count this coming weekend?
It does not count this coming weekend. I just checked the weather. It doesn't, it said there's only a 20% chance of precipitation on Saturday.
When I was driving in, they said the storm's gone south of us, so we shouldn't do that.
Teresa does not believe you because the dump is closed.
Dump already closed.
So if we stay in that relative area, there's $150,000 in free cash left. So,
And does that include in the budget, the 250K for the road?
but we can talk about that. That's
Oh,
that's
okay,
next on our,
okay.
that's next on our agenda.
Wait, there's more.
Yeah,
But I think it has to be an article that we move it. I'm not sure. Go ahead, keep going.
so that, you know, it's likely, you know, say we spend another $10,000 on snow and ice or $15,000 on snow and ice, if we're lucky. You're talking about $135,000 in free cash. The places that need free cash are likely to be, I can think of three places. Capital stabilization, regular stabilization, and potentially some other salary stabilization account to make sure that we have funds if we're doing salary increases for staff.
Yeah.
But those are things that we can finalize in
And
those annual time.
Okay, maybe I shouldn't ask the budget question until we go down to the budget. I have a couple of general.
Okay, but that's for the annual town meeting. That was kind of the end of the annual town meeting discussion.
I
I think we're in good shape for that. It sounds like we are.
too.
So the next thing, and obviously we're gonna be going over this in huge detail
On Saturday.
on Saturday. But I do wanna kind of give you guys the assumptions that I went into
Okay.
with regards to the document that you have. This document builds in, builds on all the requests of all the departments. It includes COLAs for the unions. And it includes the amount that we sent to the schools that we were gonna set aside for the schools, the $315,000 increase.
So what we budgeted last year plus $315,000.
2.6%.
Right,
yeah. And so people have asked where I came up with that. That number came from looking at the 2.5% increase in the tax levy that we are allowed to do without a vote of the voters to have override, plus our new growth, plus, you know, some relatively mild increases in revenue projections to look at our total new growth figure. Our total increase in budget figure, which is over the 2.5%, because you're adding all this extra money as well.
Yeah.
And then subtracting out, taking account for the fact that our enrollment at the high school dropped by 2.5%. So that's where I got to a 2.6 increase. And you know, that's
kind of in line with what we talked about in the budget summit, what we said that we could
exactly what we
afford.
said.
So I'm 100% on par with you.
All right, so is this where I say something about last night's meeting?
Go for it, Ryan.
No, or should
Well,
we?
so I guess I would look for guidance from the board as to just, we've got a 30-page document here. I do think I can go through and point out some highlights to folks. And maybe give some explanation, understanding that for most of these specific departments, you're gonna have a person who comes in that knows the budget way better than I do, who's gonna explain it to you. But I can explain the budgets that I did personally to the board, as well as the overall kind of like theory behind it. If that's helpful, and then we can talk about the schools and how that's gonna impact our budget maybe after that.
I'd like some time to go over what you just submitted, because I haven't seen this.
Sure, yeah. Okay, well then maybe the answer should just be, I did try, so it does include COLAs. I did try to accommodate.
That was the question. So when you put the numbers in here, okay, so, I did look through here a little bit. And people that are on the same, grade on the scale, on the, the top F1, F2, F3, they should have the same salary. And so what that tells me is the not the highway superintendent, the cemetery and park superintendent, facility superintendent, and the senior center director
Okay,
should have the same salary. But it's not necessarily on this, but they're in the same step and grade on the town's wage matrix.
okay.
And so I had a question about that. I didn't know how you were, so are we doing the COLA and a step when we're figuring the salary here?
Yeah.
Okay, all right. That's good. But there are people that are on the same step, the same number of hours, should have the same salary. And I think if I went through here quickly,
Sure, I mean, no, you are 100% right,
it
so,
was different for all three. And then I saw that there was a FY 23, I think it was treasurer, in that department, not the treasurer herself, but there was something in treasury that said the FY 23 budget was wrong. And I thought, wait. So I'm gonna have a question about that.
sure, yeah, I
You
mean,
know, I haven't gone back to look.
yeah, and so
but,
that I will say for that, I did go back and look at the employee action forms.
Uh-huh.
And what was the numbers that were in the FY 23 budget were not, somebody carried the numbers from the FY 23 budget and added, instead of saying, you get $50 an hour, let me multiply it out, this is what you get. They looked at the FY 22 budget, which was incorrect. And they added 3% to the FY 22 budget, which meant if you start with a bad number, you end up with a bad
Yes,
number.
that's true.
So that's what happened in the treasurer's
that
office.
pretty
Those
much-
numbers did not equal the two employees at their rate and
Mhm.
hours. They just didn't, they weren't equal. So I know, I haven't asked Ross about it. I know what Melissa says, which is that she told Ross, and Ross said, oh, we need to fix that, but it never got fixed before
And that could very well be, because we had, planned the budget without that increase,
Mhm.
because we weren't able to give it.
Right.
Until the last. minute.
Until the last minute. I mean, it was the day before, just about town meeting, that the schools came through and said, oh, we are going to give you the additional funds. And it was, so we had already planned the budget with, different numbers in there. And we had to go through and, change things to reincorporate what had been in there.
Right. So the other things that the kind of important assumptions that are in here is last year, the budget was written such that ARPA funded salaries were not included in the budget. They were listed as ARPA funded salaries and, reconciled outside of the budget in ARPA. In this version of the budget, I put the salaries in here. So they're part of the general fund. And then the recap of the budget includes ARPA money going into fund salaries as a non-general fund revenue source. So the budget will look higher than last year's budget by a factor of a bit, because you've got, you know, $260,000 worth of ARPA salaries that weren't in last year's budget that are in this year's budget. This also includes $263,727 for highway pavement management.
How many?
$263,727.
Right,
I hope we can do that.
we need to do that.
As you can tell, that's the line where I balance the budget.
Well,
So.
yes, that's for budget one.
That's for budget number one. That's, so that is included in here. You know, it's not what Jim had asked for, but it is more than we've managed to budget in the past, so I'm hopeful.
Yeah.
And now the only fly in the ointment for this budget is the schools.
Okay, so I attended the school committee meeting last night, where they discussed and voted on the budget. And, they get the number. Instead of the 315, our assessed is 1,127,000, and a little bit more. And so that means that there needs to be an override. So I have invited the school committee members for the March 28th meeting to discuss how the override is going to be rolled out to the community, because we are going to need for them, about an 800.
It was about
800,000.
820.
Yeah, override. And if we're going for 830,000, why not just go for $1 million and see if we can get a DPU director in there and maybe a town planner? I mean, if you're shooting for the moon, shoot for the moon. So, because, if in fact we need an override like that this year, last year we only asked for like 300,000. And that was shut down. This year, we absolutely need 830,000 more just for the school. And, that's gonna put a little bit of a kink into the, planning, the budget that we just looked at, which is a reasonable budget for the municipality. So. Either that or we're gonna, I think we should come up with a budget in case we don't get an override. Where do we get the extra 800,000?
We don't have it.
Yeah, I don't think it's possible to come up with that budget. I think what we would do is
Tell the school that they need to do better.
we would vote no.
Yeah.
And we would vote no on if the override doesn't pass, we would vote no on the budget, on the school budget. And then if in the unlikely event, and I just don't see it, I don't see Pepperell passing this over. They're asking Pepperell to come for $2.5 million.
Yeah.
And then Pepperell said they had $500,000 available.
Right.
So like a $2 million override.
And that's the thing, you know, we had conversations when the schools started, you know, we told them right from Jump Street that this is how much we could do.
Right.
And they're coming back with these astronomical prices.
Right.
Knowing full well that we couldn't fund it.
Right.
Putting us in a very, very precarious situation. You know, I don't mind helping them as far as trying to get the override, but this is the responsibility of the school to really do the override.
Right. But I think the answer is if we put in for the override, if they insist that this is the number, and this is what they insist all the way through April, and quite frankly, it's going to be way before that because we have to put the amount on the ballot before the next Board of Selectmen meeting.
The amount for an
For an
override,
override.
yeah. Because
So-
it has to be, what, 35 days prior to the election, that the ballot
Yeah.
gets printed?
Yes,
So,
and it has to pass on the ballot and on,
Town meeting.
town meeting, so.
but if the answer is no in Townsend, then I can't imagine the other towns both saying yeah. But if they do, then we come back and we put it on the ballot again and say, it's this or some draconian cuts.
They will be draconian.
But I don't think that we do that. I don't want a document to exist that the school board can look at and say, oh, you could do it. Look,
That
you
is
balanced it right there.
Exactly the reason that the superintendent gave last night, for the fact that he was not gonna put a budget together that, that met the requirements of the letters that all the boards sent to them, saying this is what we can afford. He said he thinks to run the district, he needs this extra millions. And, and anyway, and so he was not gonna put a budget together, see what it would look like if we didn't approve it.
Well, that sounds like that he's digging his heels in the sand, and I'm ready to do the same as well.
Here's what I wanna avoid. I wanna avoid the last 2 weeks of April before town meeting, where every day we have a new budget, trying to cut everything that we can in order to afford education for the children.
Last year, we had 7 budgets leading up to town meeting.
Right.
I mean, that was,
We had to, and the budget that was published in the warrant was not the budget that we had to print new budgets to give out on the day of.
Right.
I want to avoid that.
and I can assume that you did the same thing I did. The day before the town meeting, I yet again, for the 6 millionth time, went through the budget to see what else we could cut.
Right.
I mean, it was,
So like 2, 3 in the morning.
Yeah.
it was the day before that we had a budget.
You know,
And it's not a necessary situation.
No, it really isn't. And the thing that I personally am a little upset about is that it has been framed that we were part of the discussion well beforehand. We were not part of $800,000. We were not part of that conversation. That did not come up when we had our 4 budget meetings that we had. So I want to be very clear about that and be on the record by saying that. We said exactly what you're saying now in regards to what we would be able to afford with the budget to be able to provide the services for our community. Period, ended. That's what we told them. In what, November is when we had that meeting?
October, November, December, January. Every,
So-
they got the same consistent message from us and the other towns.
And the other town, and the other town. So, you know, I,
Only Ashley voted against the budget.
So but I do think the answer is that we go into town meeting with a budget with, you know, it doesn't have to be this one because I drafted this one and you guys obviously don't want to change it.
Yeah.
But I don't think we go into town meeting with a budget that slashes, you know, our town services.
That's what we.
I think we go in with one that says, you know, this is authorizing a certain amount of money for the schools. That's what this budget does. You know, and it's not gonna be the amount, unless the override passes, the amount is gonna be what we can afford. And that's the budget that we passed. You know, and if that's not what the schools accept, then, you know, then we get into the cycle that I think that, you know, that has happened in the past for this region, which is the school department's gonna have to go back to the drawing board. And they're gonna have to come back with a better budget.
Mhm.
And if it has an override, then we're gonna have to have another vote for an override. And we'll see, you know, and maybe the town will come to some realization and the school will come to some realization and maybe they'll decide to split the baby or something. But I think we need to stick firm with our budget for for the town, to say, this is what we need for the town.
It is what we need.
And we're not gonna like, unless they come, now, if they come back and say, we can do 500,000. Then maybe we need to sit down and have a real conversation about, can we get to 500,000?
Right, and then what we sacrifice are the paving of the road.
Yeah, I mean, but that's
What we
not
can
right now reasonable,
Well, where is it going to be, and I don't foresee this changing, where is it going to be that we are able to say to the school, this is all we can afford, period, ended, so, that's it, that's
Yeah.
all we can do. I mean, it's at what percentage of our budget goes to the school, 61% right now? That's a lot of money. We're running the town on less money every single year and giving more money to the schools.
So a guy from AFB's finance committee was on the call. And he was saying, so we have all these regional school unfunded mandates. What is the amount that isn't funded? In other words, if the state were to fund the way they are supposed to for transportation and for per pupil services, it went up just, like nothing. So
Yeah.
what is it?
My question is, sitting here listening, the talk out on the street, an override right now. The Board of Selectmen puts that out there that you want an override, crucify every one of you. If the school wants that kind of money, they should present it themselves and let them be the ones to present it. Why should the selectmen be the bearers of the bad news? They don't want to ever come to grips. If they want to get that budget, they need that amount of money, they need to present it and sell it to the town. Let the school sell that. Oh, the three of you sitting there, why do you want to be the bad people at the end of it? Because that's what's the chatter out on some of the Facebook pages. Oh, they're gonna do another 2.5 override so they can, selectmen can pad their pockets. Well, that's crazy, but that's what's out there.
Sorry.
So if they want that override, let them present it at town meeting and them get it and let them be the bearers.
And that's what we told them.
And they are coming, they will be on the agenda for the 28th, to get out their message and why they're requesting the override.
Right.
Which is why.
Well, they need an
probably
extra
I should
$800,000.
And go for $1 million.
Right.
We should just.
We can let them hang on their own petard. So, I do think what we need to do is we need to call the superintendent on his commitment where he said he would come down here and have a meeting in the Great Hall and explain to people why he needed the extra money from town. So I think we need to schedule that. We need to say, you've voted the budget now it's time to schedule it, and we need to get it out there and say, the schools are gonna ask for an override, here's why, they're gonna explain why.
And, so I did invite the school committee members to come on the 28th to roll out their plan for presenting the override to the public. Because
March 28th
March 28th, that's when it's regular Board of Selectmen meeting.
with energy aggregation,
The public hearing, yeah.
Yes,
well, that might be a good time for that.
so they're coming to meet with us.
I don't see how we couldn't have been more forthcoming.
From meeting one, they got a consistent message from not just us, but from everybody saying, what we can afford is this amount. I think literally Pepperell came in that day with the number, the first meeting.
And exactly what they
Said,
said.
which is the number that they put in that letter that they sent, that Pepperell sent,
Right.
which is, we can give you 500,000 and some change. That's what we can afford. And I told them between a 2% and a 3%.
Yeah, we were about 3 something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what we can afford. Between a 2% and a 3% increase in the budget. We came in at 2.6. I don't know what else to tell the folks at home other than we've given them a consistent answer, and that, so that, I think that Joe is right. It's important that we have the superintendent follow through with his commitment and be the face of explaining why this is necessary.
I'm all in on that. That would be good.
Okay,
So,
if it's okay with the board, I'll actually reach out and contact the superintendent's office and see if there's a way to try to schedule that meeting. Sometime this month, preferably, because the sooner we get the word out, I think the better it is for the town, and the more likelihood that people will be able to hear what the
right, that's the message.
message is, and we can have, she came here, we can tape it, put it on the link on the website about an override, and here's the superintendent explaining why. And maybe we can have some people put the links on their Facebook to show the.
Okay. So we'll bring our budget questions on Saturday. So thank you very much. Do we move on?
I think so.
Okay. We've done 4.6 already, the capital plan. 4.7 is the Community Preservation Act to the warrant article, or warrant article. So Community Preservation Act is a fee that's paid on property that you own.
It's a surcharge.
It's a surcharge. It is not rolled into the tax rate, but it is based on your the valuation of the property. So it requires, I believe, a town meeting vote and a ballot vote. It can be used for open space, for historical preservation, could be painting Memorial Hall, and also for affordable housing, workforce housing. So I think that, and there are exemptions that you can have. You can exempt the first 100,000 of your valuation from it. You can, if your income puts you on the affordable income scale for the county, you can be exempted completely from the tax. And then you can decide whether you apply this to more commercial and industrial properties as well. So the surcharge can be 1% to 3% of the amount that you pay in taxes, not the valuation of your property, but the amount that you are taxed on your property. And that, I kind of think of it as a GoFundMe for people that can afford it, to allow for workforce housing in a community. This money is funded, those surcharges get put into account in the town, so the town keeps that money. And then, in addition, anytime you register anything at the Registry of Deeds, whether it's an order of condition, a deed,
Homestead.
resignation for a trust,
Yep.
a change, an amendment to a declaration of trust, which we did today, a certain percentage of that fee goes into a fund that the state holds. Whether your town is everybody pays that in the state of Massachusetts when they go to the registry, and those fees were increased in 2019 to be roughly $50 on the, like if you pay $255 to register a deed, you just purchased a house, 50 of that goes into the Community Preservation Act. Those funds are then distributed to the towns that have adopted the Community Preservation Act. We, the town of Townsend, have been paying since 2000, with everything that's ever been recorded at the registry, into the Community Preservation Act. We have not received a single dollar. The communities in Massachusetts that picked up on this early on and joined up were typically the communities with high median incomes. And they have been gaining this. If you look at the Cape and the Islands, every single one of those communities is a CPA community.
Yeah.
All along the coast in Boston.
It's free money.
It's free money. The middle of the state, some of the towns out. Pepperell just adopted it last year, I guess it was. Air has adopted it.
Lowell adopted it a couple of years ago.
Yeah. So I think that we should put this out to the people of town, because if we want to develop affordable housing in town, we need to have a sustainable way of doing it. And it really is kind of like a GoFundMe for the people that can afford it in town to help build affordable housing. Once the community has adopted, which means the town meeting vote and also a ballot vote, we would set up a community preservation committee that would decide how those funds for open space and historical development and affordable housing would be distributed. And that's my understanding of the Community Preservation Act. So
Yeah.
since you've been involved in it, and Lowell, Eric, if you want to add anything to that.
Well, yeah, because I did some reading on it because I knew it was coming up tonight. So I'm just a little confused, especially since you talk about it like a GoFundMe. Because the way that I read it, it's basically a surcharge on however you voted into the town. So everybody in the town, you might exclude people below a certain income, you might exclude people over 65. But let's say everybody in that middle of the thing, every single person in the town that doesn't make whatever exclusion we put on as Board of Selectmen have this surcharge, tax, whatever you say. So it's not a GoFundMe where you can opt in or opt out
No,
to
it's
be
not
part of
that, but it,
Okay, so it's an additional fees or additional tax that every member of
it
the
is
town.
not
will
a tax, it is a surcharge.
So it's additional money every member of the town would have to pay. That
Every
wasn't
property
every-
in the town. If you're a
Okay.
renter, you wouldn't pay.
Okay,
But
every,
the person that owns the apartment building would,
okay,
whoever pays the tax.
every property, but it's based on the taxable portion of the.
Yeah,
property.
so for instance, if your taxes were $5,000 a year, a 1% surcharge, which means your taxes would increase, your bill would increase by $50 that year. That $50 would go into the Community Preservation Act fund in town.
And it may
Previous-
not even be that $5,000 if you, if the community votes to, exclude the first 100,000 of your assessment.
Which
So,
you
in,
could do.
you know,
That's one
so
of the
if your
exclusions.
house is assessed at 400,000, the rate that you would pay is the 300,000. So it's not your taxes on you're gonna be taxed on 400,000. It's gonna be the taxes on 300,000 if we vote to exclude the 100,000. So it's even lower than the $50.
But previously, we did have to pay into this fund, but we just paid it out of general funds or whatever, right? Because we were paying, if I read right, we were paying into CPA. It wasn't like
We have never paid.
No, the way that the members of the town have paid into TPA is when they do business at the Registry of Deeds. So every
as
transaction,
individual members they paid, not as a town we did. pay.
correct, the town, so the way that at the state level, there's a Community Preservation Trust Fund at the state level. That is funded in two ways. The first way is by every transaction at every Registry of Deeds in Massachusetts. Every time anybody in any town does any business with the registry, they pay $50 into that fund. The other way is the legislature makes appropriations directly into that fund out of the general tax base. So, a couple of years ago, the legislature put $10 million into the trust fund. The next year, they put $20 million into the trust fund. It drastically increased the amount that people were getting back from their.
Okay. So
But
just
the
explain
only-
to me how you use the term free money. If I tax all these citizens here, surcharge, sorry, by surcharge, all these
Sure.
things here, $10,000, and I get $5,000 back, how's that free money?
Because so say we do this and, we make $100,000 in our trust fund from the surcharge in that first year. Then the state, out of the state trust fund, gives us extra money based on how much we brought in.
Okay, so it's
Over the
like a
last-
401k where you get your 3% or
Well,
whatever?
no, actually, the last few years, it's been
That's more than that.
it's been like 30 to 40%. So we put aside 100,000 and the state says, okay, here's another 30,000 to go with that. And that is the money that money is the reason why towns adopt the Community Preservation Act. Because for every dollar you set aside, the state gives you some amount of money to match it. And the matching has gone up and down. I think at some point in time it was as high as 70%. It dropped and was down in the 10 to 15%. It's now gone back up to between 30 and 40%. But it means that we are taking some money of our own, and the state is saying, okay, we're going to give you a partial match.
And the money is used for open space,
Open space and
Affordable living.
recreation, affordable housing, and historic preservation.
Right.
thank you. I get it.
There's also, to caveat off of that too, is that there are, if you are using CPA funds for certain things, like let's say historic preservation, it does open up opportunities for grants, for preferential treatment for certain grants for that, especially with affordable housing. I just want to say a couple of things in regards to this. The Housing Authority has been working. I've been on the Housing Authority for 8 years now, 9 years, going on 9 years. Part of the reason why we wanted the Affordable Housing Trust to get set up is because we needed to have a vehicle in which, outside of town meeting, that a group can actually spend the money to appropriate these affordable housing units or build or whatever they need to do. So getting the Affordable Housing Trust set up then puts us, the Housing Authority said, now what do we need to do to find a vehicle to fund the Housing Authority to make sure the Housing Authority, the Affordable Housing Trust is gonna be sustainable. So we at the Housing Authority worked with a consultant to work on our housing production plan, and they strongly recommended us to be able to get behind a CPA for the town to be able to keep the funding for all of the things that we've been building for Townsend for the last, 8 years.
Well, and I will say that the Affordable Housing Trust has 100,000 of ARPA money.
Right.
Once that money is spent and we have a budget that we put into our 5-year plan, that money will be spent within the first 2 years.
Yes.
Once that's done, there will be no more, even if we even get affordable housing able to be developed in town with that amount of money. It won't be doable.
Right. So the other part of it too is when we talk about affordable housing, if you look at the statistics on who is actually using affordable housing, it's teachers, it's policemen, it's firemen, it's people that are doing a lot of service for the municipality, but because of the way the salary structure is, they can't afford to go out and buy something, in that respect. So when we say affordable housing, a lot of people in town have said to me, well, they're thinking of, a high-rise building. It's not that. It's to be able to, for an individual, we have 2 sectors that we need to protect here in town to keep them in town. Number one, we need to have first home buyers to be able to buy something at an affordable rate that they can stay in town. And we have the elderly population, which is getting older, and Townsend is aging out at this point, to keep them to maybe sell their larger home and get into a smaller, affordable type housing unit to be able to stay in town and still pay tax. So this all kind of figures into how we're trying to preserve the individuals that live in town to stay in town, and also kind of draw some new people in, first home buyers and that.
I was in a meeting where they referred to it as beginners and enders.
Yeah. You know.
I think that for the folks at home, I think the most important thing to think about the Community Preservation Act is if you own a piece of property, you've already paid into the trust fund.
Yeah.
Every single, if you look at those deeds, and every time somebody, you got a mortgage, or you got a home equity line, or you filed on the homestead, every single time you did that, the check went into this community preservation fund.
You needed an order of conditions.
And until now, that money is going to other towns. Other towns are benefiting from towns and residents' money going into the community, into the state fund. Because that's how they fund that matching portion. And I would estimate, given the size of the town and the amount of time that the Community Preservation Act's been there, you're probably talking about $500,000 to $1 million of funds that the town residents have handed to the state that has gone to other people. And so the way to get in on that is to adopt the Community Preservation Act. It requires us to say definitively, we're going to set aside a portion of our money, but then you get this matching funds and you can do things with those funds that, you know, that I think are things that the folks in town want done, which is make sure that our historic buildings are preserved, make sure that the beautiful open space and recreation areas we have get, you know, maintained and upgraded,
And that they need.
and make sure that the workforce, people who are in workforce housing are able to continue to live in town. And those three goals of the CPA, I think setting aside, you know, a small portion of everybody's bill and then getting that kind of bonus money from the state, make it kind of the.
This has been recommended by the consultant for the housing authority. It's been recommended by a lot of the other state legislatures saying, why aren't you a part of the CPA? You really should be a part of the CPA because this extra money that we keep on going up for grants and all of that kind of stuff would be something that would be more automatic for us.
And I say look at it as a GoFundMe, not for the part that, yeah, you can elect whether to do it or not, but for the part where it is for the good of the community. That's how I do
Do you want me to proceed with make the motion to suit this on the town meeting
it. Well,
as written?
no, don't take that motion as written,
Okay.
because there are, I mean, I was taking a shot at it, but we really should have Adam to draw up. And therefore, Eric, there are, after I did that, there are other, in that, there's a website, the Community
Preservation Coalition.
Coalition website, and in there, they give you samples.
They give you a warrant article. There's a warrant article that you just
Yes.
copy and pay. So what I will do,
Exactly.
is I will bring to the next Board of Selectmen meeting a sample warrant article with all the possible exceptions, and all the board will have to do is decide what exceptions they want to adopt and what percentage they want.
Right, so in the motion I made, I put a percentage. And I put the exceptions that I was interested in. So you might want to ignore my motion and read what Eric puts there, because there are other exceptions.
Yeah, there's 4 possible exceptions, and I think
I took 3 of them.
3 of them are nice. One of them I would never do, which is exempt commercial property. No offense to the business owners.
I exempted commercial property.
Yeah.
I did.
Yeah,
I did one, I did the affordable exception, affordability, the 100K, and then I exempted the first 100K from industrial and commercial.
oh yeah, so you exempted the first 100K, but you can exempt industrial and commercial in its entirety.
Oh, I didn't think I did that.
And that's the one I think
Yeah,
that
I didn't do that.
I'm gonna go for it, so.
The same, the water rate is the same, they get the same thing that all the people. So they have to pay.
We'll give you a split tax rate instead. How about that?
So anyway, okay.
So I will bring that back to the next,
Yeah,
the
you
next
can
Board of
do
Selectmen
that.
meeting. Yeah, that's very,
And then we'll put it on the warrant, and it either goes or it doesn't. They had examples, I think I put an example in the SharePoint, there was that I pulled from that website.
yeah, that's,
Um, Anyway,
If you like, I can also contact the Community Preservation Coalition. I know that they will come out and talk to you about adoption.
Gonna suggest that.
yeah, I think that would be great.
They can come out, the guy who runs it is a really nice guy. They're a super good resource
Okay,
for both adoption and then when you do it, and get working through your committee and making sure they're doing it the right way.
that would be
But I
great.
can ask him if you want
See
to
if
come
we
out and
could
have a
come to one of our
conversation with
meetings.
it. I can do that.
Thank you. That's all I had on the community preservation. What was the next one? Oh,
Dam
police
safety.
Eric.
Okay. So,
Damn, safety.
unbeknownst to me, the town is the part owner of a dam. Which I did not realize. The town is the part owner of a dam behind the West Townsend Reading Room.
The Canal Street.
I thought it was on Main Street, it's a, I'm confused now.
It's the Canal Street Bridge.
Yeah, so it's called the Mason Road Dam. It is not a dam. It is a broken down group of concrete slabs in the middle of the creek.
The river.
That's the river.
That's the river?
That's, yeah, that's where they, where Memorial Day, where they do the
Yeah.
little flower
That's
thing.
So, there's a mandatory requirement, that, from the Office of Dam Safety, that dam safety inspections be conducted once every 10 years. And we have not had one in the last 10 years.
I was confused by this. We have private citizens that also own that dam, or they get property about it?
They own the south side of the river. We own the north side of the river.
It's like the,
And the Office of Dam Safety has decided, based on their in-depth research, that we're both responsible for this dam. Because I think at one point in time, the owner of the dam owned both properties. And it was not clear when the properties were divested who retained ownership of the dam. And therefore, we're both
middle
equal.
of the river, it's like,
both
you
equal
know,
owners.
between states, the river between states.
So I think we're gonna need to figure out how to get we have a deadline
Isn't it May?
by May to have a dam safety report submitted to the Office of Dam Safety. So
what does that entail?
that is an excellent question. So they actually, in the package, they gave us the last dam safety report that was before. So there's a company that actually did it. I'm gonna call them up and quite frankly, just ask them how much it costs to prepare that report. And I'm gonna call up, I'm trying to get in touch with the property, the property owner on the other side.
I'll come talk to you about, because there's a company that does a lot of stuff out at the Harbor Pond, and I'm wondering if they could be involved in that area too.
Yeah, I mean, I think the challenge may be the funding. This may be something that I might have to go into to ask for a reserve fund transfer. Depending on how much the quotes come in for.
And it has to be done by May.
It has to be done by, so it's an emergency. It has to be done by
Otherwise,
May.
we get,
And the fines are up to $5,000 a day.
No, we don't want that.
And that would be bad.
Who's the owner of the other half?
I included, so the document's in the SharePoint, but I don't have a copy of it. So it's,
Mr. Delaney.
Delaney.
the Delaney.
But they've already been contacted?
I have to try to reach out to them. I wanted to talk to the board first, so. So the Delaney's were the owners 10 years ago. So they obviously got the same notice that we got last week that this had to happen, so. I will do my best to reach out to them and have a conversation about that and come to some agreement as to who's gonna pay. My fear is, I can't tell from the document that we have who paid for it. Maybe he's gonna pay for it. Maybe they've already started. This is all just
I think you should reach out to them.
Yeah.
And we should get some bids on.
oh yeah, so we're gonna have to do this super quick.
I think you could visit them at noontime. Haven't been in there at noontime? All the clocks go off. It's wonderful.
No.
Yeah, you don't know anything about the Delaney clocks? He's on PBS all the time.
Really?
Beautiful, grandfather clocks, and they go off at noontime, and it's like amazing.
Oh, well, I might have to make it. Wow, that's cool. So I will follow through with, trying to reach out and get, I should be able to get at least not a specific quote, but a general quote from the company that already did it. And then if we have more companies that we can get specific quotes from, I'll know what kind of procurement method we have to go.
Well, I'm just wondering if you can find it to the other people that are doing some of our waterway. That's just a section that would be different, but they're still on the Quantico. I can't think of the name of it off the top of my head.
Neshoba watershed and
The
all.
ones that monitor the harbor pond.
That's in North West. They don't do dam. Or do you mean monitor the dam?
Yes.
Who owns that dam?
Hold
I
on.
don't know. I do not.
You don't
I
know
hope-
that.
I hope.
I mean, what dams do we own? This is where, a Department of Public Works would come in handy, because there would be someone who would be responsible for knowing.
Yeah, so this is just a matter of, because, right now, we've got kind of an urgent timeline, so.
So I mean, there's dams there and they're monitored because they do the flood flows. They're moving.
So we don't pay for that, so that's not ours.
Right, I understand that, but I'm saying,
I think you're correct, because I know they own that piece of property right at the harbor light. I know that.
West Groton,
Yeah,
I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
I think you're
I
right.
know that they do own a lot of little parcels around.
Yeah.
Right.
When we were doing the UPWP, we saw that they owned that parcel.
because they redid it not too long ago.
So I will follow up with a report to the board on the 28th as to where we are. 'Cause
Thank you. Yeah.
We've got time sensitive.
Dam inspector for a dam inspection.
So the
Dam inspection.
The dam goes back on the 28th. All right. And this is all from the 28th. Okay. Schedule the energy aggregation public hearing for 3/28. That needs to be done, this week. So. good with that?
Shouldn't be a
Okay.
problem.
And we have to post it at the appropriate place.
Now, does TCAM know that date too, in case we need microphones and stuff?
28th?
I thought we could just do that with the owl.
That's here, yeah,
You want to do it in here?
that's
Okay.
during the Board of Selectmen meeting, I believe.
Or do you want to do it in the Great Hall?
I don't know how many people would show up.
Then let's just do it in here.
Okay.
But you're gonna have Brad come to present to the town.
That's not gonna be on the 28th. That's gonna be on a completely different
But
day.
it will be the school committee member.
Well, hopefully. Hopefully. Yeah, so we'll, that has to be in the paper and then we'll post it.
All right, I don't have anything else on that. So, all right, the next one, ARPA project, we already discussed the library, that was the only one I had, and then if anybody has others.
Oh, the ones that I mentioned in capital
The
planning.
capital plan. But other than that,
Did we check on the one that I put in last meeting? With the assessment?
I haven't talked to Jennifer yet, the building assessment. Okay.
so those are a couple things then, the ARPA, for the capital planning and the building.
Yeah, so I will reach out to Jennifer about those two things, about the capital plan proposals that might need ARPA money and about the building assessment to see if they're eligible. I only have one thing, which is, where we are starting our, collective bargaining negotiations with the unions. Veronica had been assigned to be the part of the collective bargaining for the police. But I didn't want to just assume that she was also assigned to be part of collective bargaining for all the other units. So again, just looking for some direction from the board as to who would like to come all day Monday and be here for 4 hours to talk about the union meeting. 3 hours.
And it's highway water, so it's clerical supervisors and highway water, are they still a single unit?
Highway water is in the process of becoming a single unit with two subgroups that would be dealt with separately. But the collective bargaining agreement is just gonna have like an appendix. It's gonna be the same agreement, and then there's gonna be an appendix that just deals with highway, and then an appendix that just deals with water.
Why don't we do clerical and supervisors that way too?
Because you're not supposed to have a supervisor in the same union as the person that they're
as the-
supervising.
Yeah, okay,
So that doesn't happen in water and highway, so,
all right,
um,
because they're all unsupervised, yes. Okay, good.
I would be willing, but I'm not here.
okay. So, I mean, my suggestion would be, because Veronica's been part of the police negotiations that we started last fall, that at least through, any negotiations that happen this fiscal year, that Veronica just be part of them, because she all knows the conversations you've already had about a lot of the same issues with police. But I don't want to,
Yeah, I have no problem with that.
I don't want to force that choice on her.
Looking at me.
I don't know, because I don't know what
I
we're deciding.
That through April, I'm not rerunning,
Right.
so at that point,
So as long as the board is
If
okay
the
designating,
board can, if you're good with me doing it from
Through
now
April.
until the end of April, I can do that.
Yeah, and then we can, whatever happens with the elections, we'll go from there.
Right.
Yeah, okay, I'm okay with that.
okay, so. Okay,
That's fine.
9, no. 10, 11, and 12, I'll send you the invite.
All right. That's it for.
it. Everything else I've been working on, we've already spoken.
Okay. All right, board liaison, general government. Anything there?
The only thing is I did give a list of some items and maybe you could help follow up if I don't, while I'm on away, of some possible items that Green Energy could look at. And I think it was in the list, but I'll separate it out and I'll send you another
Okay.
email before I leave.
All right, I'll send the rest of that.
The biggest one was the, bands in the library and things like that.
Right.
Windows in the building here and stuff like that.
Okay, yeah, I know we'll vote on what we're hoping for.
When is that?
I can check with Karen. I don't know when the next
Okay.
round is due.
Yeah, because when we did it a couple, maybe 3 years ago, it went in April.
So maybe that's. what
Yeah,
we're looking
check.
for, but I'll check with Karen.
Elected boards, I already reported on the school committee, which I was able to go to last night,
I was in water.
yes.
So Nate didn't pull papers.
I don't know. I don't think
telling you.
so. Oh, I don't know. I don't know. That wasn't discussed. No, with the water right now, they're talking about a groundbreaking and they're looking at April. So they're looking at inviting Senator Cohen, Margaret. They had a discussion on who should they invite, basically said you can invite anybody you want. I mean, it's a big thing. There's a lot of money that's being spent on it, so.
Yeah.
But the water superintendent really has, got things in order in regards to, what the process is. And now it's just kind of waiting for things to start. They're waiting for bids. Certain bids are coming in at different times, and they're really right on top of everything, which I thought was, I'm very pleased with the relationship that we have, working together. I missed the planning board. I wanted to go to the planning board meeting, but I was kind of stuck in a couple of other things that we were doing. There was, I had also put in for, a webinar that I had sent. I don't know if you saw that. I sent Callie, in regards to, retaining, what we need to do as a community to retain, employment and to look at other avenues on way to drive, candidates to your particular position. Right. So she said that she found out for it. She's gonna go through it too. That was, yeah, that's what I thought was really good. And that's really all I have.
I have a question. This is for you, Eric. I know you sent it to all of us. Lori Johan,
Oh, right. Thank you
is
for
coming
reminding me of that. Yes.
next week, Wednesday
Yeah.
at 11 o'clock to the
Right here.
Chambers to meet with our community services coordinator and the Board of Selectmen for the great job that we've done on community wellness
Yes.
with the ARPA funding and that. So I know I sent you that I was gonna be there. Are you guys gonna be here?
I put in for it.
Will there be press here? Do you know?
I don't think so. I don't think
I
they
think it would be
anticipated the press
wonderful. There was. Just because it's a good thing for Townsend. And, usually we get put in the paper for
Son.
silly things, you know, or
Silly.
it's silly, yeah.
Well, I can certainly, so I can ask. How they feel about,
Or maybe they bring their own and put it on their website.
well, I think they're definitely doing that. They're
And
definitely
then
gonna,
we could post it on our
Yeah, they're
website
definitely doing
and
that.
other, social media pages, because how many people read the newspaper? I don't read local newspapers.
Yeah.
So I used to, but I don't anymore.
yeah, so I, thank you for bringing that up, because that's a very exciting thing, and they were looking for, uses of ARPA funds that, you know, that were not just kind of run of the mill uses that benefit the community. And they were really excited to come and talk. So I think, we're inviting someone from NM Cares.
Yeah, and then Cares and Joe was on the board when we made the decisions that we made. So it's 11 o'clock on Wednesday, the 15th.
Yeah, so I think it's gonna be, the staffer said that she's here to talk about this. That's what she wants to hear about, is how it's going and how, you know, what made the board think about this sort of thing. I think it's really interesting, the whole backstory.
Oh, wow. So, we had, sticky.
Oh, boy. Yeah.
We met downstairs first and the stickies, everybody had to come and write on the stickies what they wanted.
It worked.
It
That's,
worked.
hey, that's how you get community engagement and buy-in.
And then we, kind of,
It was the Healing Communities thing that I got involved with NM Cares.
yeah, and
We had the fire department in here too, talking about their end of it. So there was a lot of.
And then we looked for the things that were similar and kind of circled them and matched them up and.
So I think that's the sort of.
And we tried to make it so that everybody got something. And as far as all the departments went, we went to the departments and the board and
We have pictures of that too.
we do.
Because we took pictures downstairs and we brought them because we were here looking at our pictures of the,
Yeah, we all had to take pictures of the wall.
of the wall, yeah.
The wall,
The sticky wall.
pictures of the stickies on the wall. So anyway, so there's that.
Yeah, so that's very exciting.
For public safety, the new police cars are in. Chief Sartell called me and invited us to come and visit them sometime, so we would like to contact him to see when the.
Jess, sit you right in the back.
Can I have a bracelet?
And so we will apparently be seeing it on the warrant. Thank you.
Good.
For the last payment for police, and also they have to be outfitted for body cameras. Something else that he told me that I can't remember. So
Yeah, there's a
there were funds
computer.
spent
Yeah.
to get things set up so that it worked with the equipment.
Yeah, the body camera equipment had to
we have.
interface with the cruiser.
And then also, I heard from Chief Shepherd, and we were actually invited to a dinner at 6:30 today at the firehouse, but we have a meeting, so that didn't work. But they have received
I could have gone to
I'm a little hungry right
that,
now.
starving.
the two vehicles that were ordered with capital funds, well, with free cash last year through the capital.
Well, one was free cash, one was borrowed.
Okay, so it's the intercept vehicle and the fire
Ford.
chief
Yeah, it was,
car.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I don't think the fire chief is gonna use someone else, is gonna use it in the department, but those two vehicles were, I think they were both last year. One might have been from the.
no, they were both last year.
And they are also in. So, and I think we're being delivered today.
Nice.
So that's,
And they look nice.
oh, you've seen them? Oh, nice. I haven't seen them yet. I have to go. So anyway, so that's the report from public. So that moves us down to 5.3, reorganization of the board. Since I am not running, for selectmen for next year, I wanted to, make a motion that Chaz become the chair and I step into co-chair for the remainder of my, time on the board.
A second.
Oh, that was amazing. Okay. So, that's what I am moving or making a motion to do.
Co-chair or vice chair?
Vice chair. Did I say co-chair?
Yeah.
Oh, I wrote co-chair.
The Freudian slip there.
Vice chair. Vice chair. For the, I think I have 3 regular meetings. Okay. What other stuff, but 3 regular meetings. And I have some things that I would like to get done before I'm no longer on the board.
Mm-hmm.
Specifically the CR for Glenbrook Meadows, to have a mock-up of that if it won't be approved. But I would like to have that underway. And the community wants to plan to see if we can't get funding for our bus stop out back and
Right.
better parking area at Jeff and things like that. So any discussion, further discussion? All right, so all those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye. And congratulations, Jeff. There.
Woohoo!
Yay. Thank you. So moving on to 5.4, announcements and communications. There were 2 resignations, one for Linda Mack as the Conservation Commissioner, and the other was, I don't know off the top of my head,
Natalie Paul.
Natalie Call from Council on Aging. So there is an opening for both of those that needs to be posted. Because we appoint the Council on Aging and we also appoint the Conservation Commission. So we have, two postings still after that. And I don't think we have to vote on that, do we? These are not,
No.
No, it's just.
you know, we voted for Emily's, but that was just a staff position.
Right.
Staff position. All right, next meeting, the budget summit on Saturday, 8:30 to 12:30, so we need to get that posted. 6 p.m. on March 28th, we have a regular meeting. And I said includes the energy aggregation public hearing, and we will also have the school committee here or some segment of it. They named like a subcommittee that would work on the messaging so that it would be the same for all three communities. So, then we have Tuesday, April 4th at 6 p.m. Tuesday, April 11th at 7 p.m. That's the meeting where we roll out the budget and the ATM articles. Tuesday, April 18th at 6 p.m. And then I'm going to add here, Saturday, April 22nd is the Earth Day, and the town, the selectmen will have a table, maybe two of them, if we can get the second in the 10th or whatever, because one for energy aggregation, which Clean Energy will do. If we're doing the CPA, I would like to have a flyer for that. What were the other things? The solar canopies, we should have something on that. Anything that we need for town meeting.
So the solar canopies are not gonna be on town meeting.
They are not going to
They're
be
not
on
gonna be on
town
town. No.
meeting. Okay.
But they are gonna come in, we are gonna have a presentation from the canopy company on the 28th.
On the 20th. We have a big 28th meeting. Work on that agenda.
Yeah, thank you.
The solar canopies, yeah. Okay.
Yeah, so it's to make a presentation to the board and get the board to authorize me to sign the letter of intent so they can lock in the rates and start negotiating with Unitil and prepping the plans for.
Okay.
And we're also gonna do the look at the water treatment plant, to put solar on the top of that.
Oh, good. Excellent. Good. That's a good idea. It's high up.
Yeah.
So, good idea.
Closer to the sun.
Better.
But that'll be, you'll learn more on the 28th.
Okay, excellent. All right, so those are our meetings. All right, is there a motion to review and sign payroll and bills payable warrants out of session?
I make a motion that we review and sign payroll warrants out of session.
Okay.
All those in favor, say aye. Unanimous. And, is there a motion to adjourn?
I make a motion that we adjourn the meeting at 9:45 p.m.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And the
Aye.
meeting is adjourned. Thank you, everybody.